Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another watch-along of snooker here at Wuhan Open in China. And it is the second semi-final as we've got Mark Allen facing Gary Wilson. World number 11 is going to challenge the world number 18 for the spot in the final. Remember, we already had a brilliant encounter between Xiao Guodong and Mark Williams, with the Chinese player coming out on top in that particular battle with a scoreline of 6-3. Are we going to see more frames here between Gary Wilson and Mark Allen? And if we are, who's going to come out on top? As for now, we've got Gary Wilson to start off the opening frame. Let's get some action underway here. Hopefully, it's going to be an interesting one. And certainly, I am hoping that it's going to be an attacking one. With so far, Gary Wilson has demonstrated brilliant snooker throughout this campaign in Wuhan, after beating the likes of Judd Trump, Sean Murphy, and of course yesterday, even dispatching the world number 6, John Higgins, in a brilliant 5-3 performance, beating Judd Trump in a decider by 5-4, and in the end dispatching Sean Murphy pretty comfortably, I would say, 5-3, with another dominant performance. Starts off nicely here, Wilson, and straight away Allen needs to find a way to get himself onto the red ball, and looks like he'll have to do that off the cushion there, as nothing seems to be coming to his mind so far about what the next shot is going to be for him. And I'll keep that poll addressed in the chat there, and so far we've had 17 votes, and it's pretty 50-50, with Mark Allen just edging Gary Wilson by 53% to 47. If you ask me, as Allen finds a decent safety shot here, if you ask me about this one, I certainly think Wilson will be the favourite. Certainly not by the odds, but by the game he has shown throughout the campaign. I think Allen was playing good, and that's the way that he was able to dispatch his opponents. But Wilson has been playing brilliantly. With his biggest problem of all has been not utilising enough of his chances, but so far he's got the first one here against Mark Allen in the first frame. Lands himself on the green to try and potentially get onto the bottom part of the table. It's not an easy shot to take into the left middle, and we'll have to use a couple of cushions to do that, but in the end just refusing that pot and just goes for a safety shot of a snooker. So first break here is only going to be a value of 1 for Gary Wilson, but certainly a good pot that he found, and finds Allen in a difficult situation straight away on the second time already. First time Allen was able to recover good enough to not leave an easy pot for Wilson, but Gary still found one. Needs to make sure that doesn't happen again, because Gary Wilson can be punishing, especially if he's got some momentum. He certainly will be feeling the confidence after beating some of the world's best players on the snooker tour. Allen seems to go for 2 cushion escape, right to left, to then land on the middle of back there, and doesn't seem to land on it. And I think he certainly left a couple of chances here for Wilson. One into the corner, it would seem. Another one into the yellow or the corner pocket there. So just having a look there, Wilson, to make sure that he takes the best possible option for him. In the end, it does look like, actually we'll have to do just a safety there, so it looked like he had 2 options to his name in the end. Doesn't look like he's going to take any of those, so he's having a good look there into the yellow pocket on that red. Maybe he'll still try and do something about it. So using a little bit of backspin, which is a sign for that. And yeah, not happy with himself as he misses the shot to the yellow pocket. Of course, was always going to leave himself on the pink, but not leave Allen on any other shot. So Wilson there with 5 points, of course 4 of them coming from Allen's foul, and the other one is the red that he managed to pot there. So let's see what's going to happen here, with Allen just taking his time And certainly, you would feel like this would be quite a contrast style of play there, with Alan being the one that doesn't mind to take the safety game and doesn't mind to play it for the majority of the match, and Wilson very much being the person that, prefers to be on the front foot, prefers to have an open position between the two players, and just ready to battle to see who's going to be the one to take it. For now, a good exchange of safeties there from both players. Alan now once again with his turn to do that. So the poll is now exactly 50-50 with someone else voting for Gary Wilson. It probably was me, but you can't vote on your own channel, which is a shame. Set the pace up. But yeah, 50-50. This is probably the way I would expect the bookies to see it. I would still give the edge to Wilson of 60% to 40%, but Alan, funnily enough, comes into this match as the favorite there. Shalom from Brandon, South Dakota. Hello, my friend, Gilbert Rogers. Nice to see you. Joining in, even ahead of my moderators there, so impressive stuff there. As Alan doesn't quite find a brilliant safety to his own, so if there wasn't the brown in the way, Wilson, you would feel like, would go for a long pot, but with the brown bane in his way, I think he would just go against that and go for a safety shot of his selection. So far an early slow start here, as Wilson just pushes the red into the bunch of the others. But talk about slow start, I don't think he'll be right now, because Alan has certainly got himself a free chance after a massive mistake there from Wilson. All of a sudden, it is a man from Northern Ireland that has a chance to his name. So has got a red into the left middle. And has to judge the pace of the cue ball nicely though, but he hasn't been able to do that. And might have actually just about landed on the yellow. We'll have to see what the precise angle for that is, but even so, you'll have a lot of work to do to try and end up on the right side of the reds there. So yeah, just looks like you'll just have to be a nice little roll up towards the yellow and leave it just as awkward as he can for Wilson to try and bridge over. So a break of one each so far, and a couple of good safeties after. So Wilson now has got his own to respond. And I think he's going to have to do that with hitting a cushion first. And yeah, maybe even two cushions there. May have to go from the right side cushion into the black cushion and only then hit a red there to make sure he doesn't leave one. That's what he's tried. Got that one a little bit too much there in terms of the pace, but seems to have got away with it. So that's probably going to be nice for him. Alan now needs a good safety of his own, as he's got pretty much a free one. The cue ball being so close to the reds. Once again pushes it into the bunch. The cue ball is going to be resting on the cushion, so nice shot there from Alan. So early days, but both players seem to be happy to be playing the number 2 role and just taking their time in terms of the game. Wilson has to be careful with this red, just to make sure the cue ball is going to travel exactly the distance he needs to. And in the end, beautiful shot there from Wilson, only leaving the tightest of margins there for Alan, trying to get on the right hand side of all the reds. And even then, there's no real chance that Alan will actually take that and not go for the cushion first shot. You can see there on the screen, if you're watching on TNT, the view is very much limited there for Mark Allen, with the angle being against him. So it does indeed go for at least one cushion first. And he's going to catch the red here, you can see, but not the second cushion first. And in the end puts a red onto the cushion itself. So far, decent play by both players. And Wilson is the next one to try and do something with his safety shot. So Hello, Kami. Hello, my friend. Hi, Sasha. Sasha is me, and Kami is you. Wilson, with a really good cue ball control, once again lands it perfectly on the cushion. In the end, shot once again. Switch for Allen. Trying to aim the cue ball exactly towards the bulk area line. So it's got a little bit of angle on that, so does need to miss the yellow. In the end, doesn't, but a kiss on it wouldn't do too much damage to me. In fact, I think it's done him more favor, as the cue ball has landed in behind the yellow, in some way, shape, or form. Good on in the final, certainly. I mean, you can't say he doesn't deserve it. Brilliant performance against Williams, especially, when trailing 3-2 down against Mark Williams. You feel like he could have lost that frame to 4-2. Would have been game over in my view, but he's only gone and won the next 4 frames, so fair play to the lad, and wishing him good luck in the final. Can he do it for 2 years in a row? Going to be massive that for China, as Wilson doesn't have a brilliant safety shot. Leaves a red on for Allen to try and potentially take on. So let's see if he's going to refuse that, and he does, Mark Allen. So doesn't think this is a red worth taking for him. So does go for a safety shot instead. And just carefully guiding the cue ball towards the bulk line area once again. So very much similar shot now. He's in the hands of Gary Wilson. And he doesn't seem to be the one refusing that shot, as he just has a little look on it. The angle seems to be just about alright to be landing on the black or pink. So you'll have to check that to make sure he doesn't just risk it for nothing. Then if he does, be able to take it on. So yeah, doesn't seem to be too confident about it. They're just checking the exact position of the red. So more and more signs that he's actually planning to take this red on here. And just a question of, is that going to give him any sort of favor? Is that going to do him any favor? Or is he going to give a chance to his opponent? So he decides to go for a safety shot on it instead. Has a little bit of a double kiss there, so I don't think it's going to cost him too much in the end. But it gives Allen very much back in the race, and with all the momentum in the world. Yes, now he's got a selection of safety shots that he can try and play here, Mark Allen, but needs to pick the best one for him. Has to be careful with those types of shots. He has got a red along the cushion to try and roll through, land on the black nicely, but once again, it's one of those risky ones that you don't really want to be take on unless you're confident about it. So he takes it on and he misses it in the end. So does he leave anything for Gary Wilson is the question. And yeah, we're going to see here. And there you go. Told you, Gilbert, my moderator will be back soon. There he is. So it does indeed leave a chance here for Wilson, as he was able to get around the black and onto the pink now. So a first chance goes the way of Gary Wilson here, with the break off 1 here. Has got the pink to the middle pocket. Nicely done once again. So has got a nice little position to him. The black only going to one of the pockets, but I think that could be about to change. As once again Wilson with an aggressive approach that seems to win him so many matches recently, especially in this tournament here in China. So if you talk about head-to-head between the two, Allen leads by 6-2 in that particular aspect and hasn't lost to Wilson since Welsh Open in 2018. So there you go. That is not something that Wilson want to keep in mind of, but as I say, he's been playing some of the best snooker of anyone in this tournament for me. Especially if you talk about the aggressive stuff. As I say, the only problem and the only sort of criticism I would give to Wilson is inconsistency. But if he can fix that and take at least 75 or 80% of those chances, I think he'll be in with a great chance to be the favorite today. And once again there, Wilson nicely on the black, scoring 21 points already. So still looking like seems to be concerned about the position of the reds. And of course the previous shot was key for him, as now the black goes to both of the pockets, and Wilson takes a chance there to land on one of the lower reds. Of course both of them blocking each other, but from the right angle you can try and eliminate the right one and free the other one as well. Of course you combine those two with potting the black, and all of a sudden you get yourself 16 free points in terms of the position. Been really nice to both players. And once again, another black goes in there. So Wilson, off to a great start here with a break of 36. Exactly the kind of start that he's been lacking and missing against John Higgins and Judd Trump, but still was managed to win those matches. Of course, was off to a great start against Sean Murphy, having an early healthy lead of 3 frames to 1. In the end, got over the line with a 5-3 lead. Winnable position for Wilson, he certainly with 44 points already. You know, looking to make that 52 with the next red and the black. The first 50 break could be very much on the horizon here for him, as he still has at least 2 more reds. Could easily stretch them out to 3 reds if you want, that he has available without any sort of need to tackle position. So 52 points for him, 47 on the current break already. And just checking there if you can try and roll through for the black there, and the answer to that question seems to be no. So he just has to carefully nudge the pink here into the middle, and then try and potentially land either the pink or the black. Nicely done once again. Finds himself with a little bit of a acute angle there to do all the work. In the end, right into the heart of the pocket it goes. So in terms of break building, you know, unless Wilson runs out of position, I think he could be the player of the tournament by far in terms of pure break building stats. In that good cannon there, brilliant. Just I have to say, this has been flawless break for him so far. It could well be above 100 with all 5 reds available to him. I mean, he's certainly a winner of a frame now as the black ball disappears. So 87 being the break, being the difference, I should say, and 87 on the table. So the next red for Alan to be needing 2 snookers, and surely a frame to Wilson there. There you go. Brilliant start for Gary. And once again, has to be really careful in terms of Mark Allen. Has to be really careful not let Wilson in this ultimate momentum. I did predict that Allen was going to try and play as defensively as he can. I think that my approach won't change after what we've seen in the first frame. You have to be very much disrupting the momentum of Wilson and try and put it on the back foot, something that Allen hasn't managed to do to his opponents before, and had to do it through the tough way, you know, beating Steve Xiaowei, Hossein Wafai in the final, in the decider frame, beating Chip Cheonu quite comfortably. And there you go, the referee won't be the most likable person by Gary there, I think, as she tried to stop him from making a century. And congratulations to the referee, because she has. Obviously, it's a little bit of a banter stuff. She just put the pink in the way of the white. It's a mistake from Wilson in terms of the century. But in terms of a break, it's been a perfect start for him. And a break of 77 is enough to do all the damage to Mark Allen earlier on. And it is now Wilson with a perfect start and now leads Mark Allen by 1 frame to 0. And all of a sudden, 32 votes and 59% for Gary Wilson now. So how things have changed after the opening frame. Yeah, but as I say, I would perfectly describe that situation as the numbers. There's 60-40 before the start of the match, and probably 65-35 for the first one. I wouldn't say it's too important and too major thing for Allen to lose the opening frame as he's done for the last couple of times, but always been able to come back, whether it is against Si Xiaowei or Hossein Wafai. And has of course managed to have some dominant wins as well beating Zach Zuerti and Chip Chayonu as well. How about Gary Wilson, though? I mean, brilliant campaign already, beating Lu Haotang in the first round, absolutely with a whitewash 5-0, beating Sean Murphy 5-3, Judd Trump 5-4 in the decider. That looked like he could be in for a loss there, with Trump leveling things up there for a decider. In the end, Wilson was able to knock out the world number one, and of course yesterday managed to beat John Higgins in brilliant fashion with 5 frames to 3. Got his momentum back in the middle of the game, in the middle of the match, and never looked back since. It will be really interesting to see what the approach is going to be like from Mark Allen in the second frame, especially after such an aggressive and such a positive start, I would say, from Gary Wilson earlier on. It's not long now for the players to come back to the table and resume the action in frame number 2 in the second semi-final. Here, of course, we're tuning up a little bit late. The first one has already been played, and it is Xiao Guodong that is going to be facing one of those two for the title here in Wuhan Open. Mark Allen here, though, with a break in the frame number 2, hasn't had too much table time in the first frame. Needs to change that, and to change it in his favor. Get those numbers up and get the first color on the board. Of course, only putting 1 red there in the opening frame. Starts off well. Nice little break there. Wilson just checking if the black is available to him, whether it is for the future or for the current shot that he will potentially take into the right corner pocket. So doesn't seem to have an answer to my question yet there. So he seems to be just taking his time and checking all of the options he has. Don't think he'll go for a long pot here, as the only one that is available is probably to the left corner pocket. But I'm pretty sure one of the reds is going to be blocking the black for that shot to have any sort of reason and purpose for Wilson. There is one to the right corner, and that red seems to be the one that Wilson has been studying for a while. And let's see what he can do about it. He's certainly aiming for it, whether it's going to be for a safety and just a little transition of the cue ball onto the black area. And it is. And judge it well. Judge it well there, Gary Wilson. Doesn't leave anything straightforward here for Mark Allen. Unless probably just a safety there for him. Once again, we'll check the options that he's got and take it from there. So the first sort of part of the first frame and the first part of the second frame as well has been the safety battle, and quite lengthy, with both players taking those times on the shots and just getting that frame time up by a touch. Allen there checking if he can get through to that red just above the black and try and potentially pot it. In the end, goes for a more straightforward shot, but doesn't play too well, with one of the reds going quite close to reaching the top side of the table. Don't think Wilson will be playing that one, though. He's got one more to the left-hand side of the table to try and exploit whether he's going to be for a pot or a safety. Now, once again, has he got the sort of chance here to try and line up this shot? He has, because certainly he's gone for it. But the problem that he's got is he's missed it by quite some margin. He's left Allen with something, that's for sure. And it looks like he'll be taking a similar shot there to the one Wilson has been playing, but the cue ball being a lot closer to the target ball this time. Still doesn't seem to be close enough for a player like Mark Allen that is not necessarily the tallest to reach that, so needs to grab an extension. And try and do it without the rest if he can. Still going to be really awkward for him to do so. And will be a massive shot if he makes it. And says no to the camera, says no to me. And clearly he's going to be using that with the rest there, or just refusing the pot in its entirety. And there you go, just goes for the rest. So once again, taking his time. Alan doesn't seem to be in a hurry, which was certainly imaginable. But him being the very much tactical side of a player, especially recently, trying to switch his game up. The rest, though, hasn't helped him, and it's given Wilson a chance to try and have a pot himself. He can just get through between the yellow and the red there onto the cue ball. Try and land the cue ball nicely on the black. He has got the tiniest of angles to try and sort of go through, but it's not going to be easy trying to bridge over that yellow and still attempting a pot there. So needs to be careful, and potentially will refuse that shot at all and just take a safety on the red. So it does look like this is something that he's going to do. And in the end, it's just a straightforward safety and a good positional shot in terms of the white cue ball being on the cushion. And Mark Allen now has got his job cut out. No long pots available for him here, so just the safety of one of the reds on the right hand side. Just needs to skip through it, send it into the other ones, and miss the blue there. He's done the first two parts of the task, but not the third one, and this time it's a very similar shot to the Wilson, to the one he had, but this time I just feel like he's got a little bit less of an angle and a little bit straighter there. So it's going to be a benefit for him. Has to do it nicely though. It's not an easy shot for him to play, and he's missed it. And yes, this time he has paid the price for it, and he's given Mark Allen a chance. The problem and the issue that Allen won't like to see is with that last shot of Wilson, he has pushed the black onto the cushion, and Allen hasn't really got an angle to kind of get through it. I think he'll probably have to screw back onto the pink there. He's got a long pot into the green pocket potentially if he wants it, but once again, not being the easiest shots of them all. So it looks like you'll have to just play through the reds with taking the second from lowest and try and land on the pink there. Not too sure he's done that perfectly. I think he's on the pink. The problem for him is, once again, it's not going to be easy to get on the red this time. And where the pink is going to go is another question for him, because its spot seems to be very much taken here by the reds. So we'll see how that one pans out. So needs to take it on first, and he gets it. So that was part of the problem. Very much got the second part. I would say all right there. I wouldn't say he's perfect on the red. He's got one into the corner. He's got one into the middle. Neither of them are easy because the cue ball landed quite close to the cushion, if not on the cushion. But once again, especially that one into the middle is probably the one you can't refuse in terms of a potting chance. And had to play with a lot of force, Allen, which made the pot even more difficult than it already was with the white on the cushion, and leaves a chance here for Gary Wilson to play the same red there as he misses it. So could be important for Wilson to get himself on the board, but as I say, the colors positioning doesn't seem to be too beneficial for either player trying to build a break. And yeah, this time Wilson starts off with a decent shot, but still lands on the wrong side of the blue. Was extremely difficult for him to try and do something about it. In the end, not going to be too easy, it would seem. He's has a lot of distance to travel if he is to end up on one of the reds at the lower side of the table. And at least 3, potentially 4 cushions are required for that. See what's going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4. And is Wilson on the red? Not too sure. He needs the middle one to go through the other two and hope that he'll be alright on at least one of them. Doesn't really tell from the face of his, and to be fair to it, I think he's more looking and more concerned about the color following up the red than the red itself. So may not be as bad as it looks. Still haven't seen the angle perfectly to tell me if that red goes through. But my feeling is certainly it does. There's your confirmation, so have to play back heavily for the blue needs to miss a pocket in his jaws into the middle. Nicely done once again by Wilson. So after a good start and playing some good snooker so far, Wilson, but so far in this frame, it's only given him 7 points to this point. And he has to once again do all the damage on that blue ball and land on one of the reds. It's gone into them. And has he landed on one? Not too sure. I think the one above the pink will go. And not going to be easy. Being an ex-taxi driver as is Gary, I'm pulling for Gary. You know what? Yesterday, someone kept mentioning about Yoda the taxi driver. I mean, I'm not too sure what that's all about, as I said to him, but you're the second person to do that, so I suppose it is a thing there. Gary. Oh, fair enough. Nicely on the blue here. Wilson, though, and just needs to find the next red for him to find. Well, Gary's firmly behind the driving wheel. Well, yeah, so far, I mean, it's like you ordered an Uber and you decided to just go behind the wheel himself. You know what he said? It's just, I don't want to be in the passenger seat. I just want to drive the wheel and go with the flow. And that's exactly what he's done so far. A good split, and this frame's done. I mean, I would say not really, because of where the pink and the black are. I think it's going to be hard for a player like Wilson to be playing in and around the blue spot all the time. So there's your answer. At least he'll get the black on the pink spot now, which will be helpful. But needs to pot it first. And even if he does pot it, actually, there's your question to answer. Which red does he want to land on? And has he got any more reds to land on? Let's see the answer to that question. As I certainly don't think it'll be easy for him to do. So needs to make sure the black is in first, and it's not. So yeah, it looked like it was going to be a struggle for him, and never looked like, the position was quite ready for a break-winning opportunity. It still probably isn't, but with the black disappearing into the pocket soon, it could become one of those. But for now, it will be just a safety here for Alan. To send the cue ball back towards the bulk line. Tough black, yeah. I mean, it was. It's not anymore. Yes, it's a safety here from Alan, and Wilson has got his safety to find. As the black is now covered up the bottom right pocket, as Wilson just travels just to check how the reds are doing. And we'll probably try and push the cue ball back towards the black ball area. Doesn't want to leave it over the middle though. And looks like he's done that. It's going to be a tough cut there for Alan, but well, compromised by the fact that he doesn't really have to focus on the position there. Wilson, I think he'll be fuming with himself. He knows Alan can only need the red there, needs the red there, and doesn't need to worry about the cue ball positioning. As I say that, he probably has landed in behind the brown and yellow for the black, but still. It's better than nothing, and I still think he's got the angle on that yellow to try and potentially transition to lower part of the table and try and get somewhere with that. For now, needs to make sure that yellow is in. So refuses that, so clearly didn't have any reds to play for. So just goes for a snooker. And Wilson will take over the table and try and first of all get out of the snooker situation that Alan has laid him in for. So 2 cushions escape once again seems to be the logical outcome, but the Question is the yellow blocking that angle for a sort of simple two cushion escape, or does Wilson see just about enough of the cushion to do that? So yeah, he just seems to be studying where does he want the cue ball to bounce for the second time until he hits the red. He can potentially try and do something with it on the sort of first cushion and then just push the red onto the black ball cushion itself. Can afford to do that with nothing being available in the right corner, with the black being in the way. Doesn't seem to have a great line there, but in the end, not too sure he was aiming for that red, but the power was judged perfectly. So it will just be another safety here for Alan. So the second frame is a lot more what I expected from this semi-final, it being strategic based, and every chance is going to be worth more than a golden bar there, because certainly not all of them will be taken, and as I say, very much feel like whoever takes the most out of them will win. Wilson has been quite good in that aspect against John Higgins yesterday, to my surprise. He used to be just about as good as he was yesterday against Allen, and so far it is Allen that is making all the errors, once again leaving Wilson with a chance of at least a save. Doesn't seem like he's left anything, once again with the black covering the right corner pocket. Allen catching the middle pocket jaw there, and leaving Wilson with pretty much second to none distance between the cue ball and the reds. So Wilson just looking there to see what he can do with this position. So plays into the red, pushes the pink onto the cushion, and the cue ball nicely onto the bulk area, resting on the cushion itself, and then the turn goes to Mark Allen once again. So yeah, a little bit of a stop-start this frame, but as you would expect it to be, with you know, Allen not being the player that sort of likes to take early chances and risk it all, and Wilson hasn't had too many chances to risk anything. So we'll see if that's about to change for him. For now, he's just lining one up to see with his eyes whether he can get through to the red that he wants to see. So obviously the cross double option that did seem straightforward to me, it's not going to be the case. And, there you can see. So I almost have thought that he can manage to do that, get past the pink and sort of just aim that red ball towards the middle, just below the black spot there. But Allen refuses that shot. In the end, goes for a two cushion escape, just to land on the bunch nicely. Executes that one to perfection. Doesn't want a touch and ball given away to his opponent though. And as long as that's out of the table, I think he'll be really happy with the safety he just found there, Allen. And Wilson will once again ask him to do the similar sort of thing, as the cue ball travels the long distance and ends up behind the green for the second time in a row here for Allen. So this is certainly not the angle to be doing the cross double I was talking about earlier, as you know, it's sort of almost a straight line in terms of the angle there position for Allen. So might actually have to do the same shot he's played before. So two cushion escape onto one of the lower reds. Can try and use the right cushion for that now, if he feels like the distance for the cue ball to travel from the left cushion might just be too much. In the end, might just try and roll into the two reds there. Oh wow, so not often you see that shot selection there from the players. So he purposefully misses the red ball that is available to him and tries to catch it on the way back, really with a thin edge. So I would say 200 for the shot selection in terms of creativity, but I would only give him 33 for the execution, because he's missed it, and we'll have to do very much same thing again And remember, you can't afford to do that 3 times in a row. Probably can't really afford to do that twice in a row. Simply because if he does it twice in a row, the referee will give him a warning saying that if you do it for the 3rd time in a row, it will be a frame to your opponent. But for now, he's certainly doing that once again. So at least willing to give away 8 points here to Wilson. But no necessity in that, as the cue ball, barring that it doesn't drop, which it doesn't, stops just about in time. It's probably, in the end, it's a brilliant safety there for Allen, and certainly 4 points well spent, you would say. Wilson now has got his head scratching, hasn't got a lot of hair on it. So we'll just have to think at what shot to play there. With that black blocking the right corner, this frame could go on for several years though. When you have Mark Allen and you've got someone like Gary Wilson, I think it is like having sort of 2 exactly opposite type of players in one table. I don't think it's going to go for several years, because if it does, I think Wilson will just concede it and go for the next one. And by concede, I mean he'll literally go for something that, you know, risks spotting the black and just giving a brilliant chance to Allen, but he won't want to be here for several years, certainly. I mean, this frame has already been longer than the first one. Yeah, I mean, Wilson certainly... I mean, one thing that I'm surprised to see is that Wilson is so far taking his time really carefully here, and you could argue it probably takes more time than Mark Allen so far on these shots, which is not something that I had on my bingo card. Once again, scratching his head, looking for hair, not finding any. And yeah, still no idea in his mind. This time tries to force an angle, so risky shot this is to be playing one of the reds into the others. In the end, goes for a different shot selection, but that one not being a lot better, as it nearly has left Allen with a chance into the middle. That red has covered up that chance. And yeah, so another straightforward safety for Allen would seem, unless he finds something else that is available to him. But yeah, not too sure what you can be doing from this position if you're Mark Allen, unless, I mean, he's tried to go in behind the pink there, but surely that was the wrong shot to play, as even if you land it, you're not really giving anything to yourself as a problem to your opponent. And now he's given Wilson a free shot, because I'm pretty sure he's left that red visible onto the top side of the table. So I think that will be taken out of there, and the cue ball will once again resume to be on the bulk spot, at least quite close to the bulk area. And there you go, there's your answer. Wilson does exactly that, takes it away there from Allen. So whatever his idea was, the execution wasn't good enough there for Allen. Now Mark has got it all to do yet again. So I would like to see the stat on how long this safety bat has been resuming already. And as you say, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen first, 2027 or this frame finishing. I mean, we're not even 2026 yet, and I'm already thinking about 2 years ahead, because Allen and Wilson, both of them, I mean, at least I thought it was going to be just Allen. Now it's Wilson joining the party and sort of saying, you know what, you can take all your time. I'll just be taking mine as well. And it may be Zhao Guodong as the champion, because if this match just remains to go forever, I think the Chinese sort of authority and organisers of the tournament will just say, you know what, you both lost. So now it's a decent safety for Allen. Once again, Wilson finds the edge of the red to push it towards the black. So I think the next step for this frame and for this match is going to be, well, for this match is going to be the end of this frame, because that's going to be a relief. But I do feel like we're not even halfway through this safety battle, simply because I think you'll end with all of the reds, or at least 90% of them, covering over that black. And, you know, no real chances for any sort of Lombard chance. And there you go, Allen and Wilson both doing that. And it's not looking good if you voted for this frame to be under 15 minutes. Because it certainly won't be. Wilson once again. Is he going to go for the same shot selection? Afternoon, not seen much of the snooker this week. Stupid question with him in the semis, but how has Alan been playing? Andrew, welcome back, my friend. Nice to see you again. So he has been decent. I wouldn't say he's been playing spectacular, as Wilson once again is going to be finding a safety of his own, and finds one actually. So gives the turn back to Alan. Pretty good, I would say, in terms of two matches. In terms of beating Chip Chayonu 5-1 and Zach Zurti 5-1. I've seen the highlights against Chip Chay. I haven't seen the match against Zach. But what I can imagine is he probably bored him to death with a selection of safety shots and forced him into a couple of unforced errors. But the two matches I would tell you about on a serious note, he has been playing well against Hossein Wafay and Si Jiahui yesterday. As once again, one of the reds goes quite close to the black there. Once again, it's Wilson with a next shot. So yeah, I would say pretty good, but I would still say Wilson has been playing better in terms of the opponents that he's beaten and the way he's beaten them as well. It wasn't like he got 50 flukes in the single frame every single time. He was actually playing quite a good snooker, especially against John Higgins yesterday. And there you go. That was just a matter of time. I reckon Wilson is sort of playing now and saying, you know what, if this black goes in, so be it. Like, I ain't spending here 3-4 decades of my life. And yeah, he pushed that red aggressively towards the black. I sort of have the impression that he will be playing the next couple of shots with sort of thought mind, I might do a really good safety, or if I catch the black and it goes in, then you know what? I've probably just saved myself a couple of hours of time. So now it's Alan that certainly won't be thinking about that, and he'll push every single red that he can towards that black. But on that time of asking, he misses it in its entirety. I think Wilson will just ask him to play from this position. Who's going to win, says Lawrence. In this frame. You can tune in tomorrow and I will tell you, because it's not going to be resolved soon. But on a serious note, whoever gets the first chance probably might not win it. But when the black is eliminated, I think it will be a little bit more up for debate. And, could have been now. I mean, Alan copped that red and pushed the pink way too close to the black there. So now they're joining the party. I mean, they're smiling about it. And let's see. Surprise lineup for the semis, all very good players, but not the four that you might have get. I think I would have expected Godun to be in there. I would say that. Well, Williams not necessarily, but Godun I would have expected him to be there. Wilson absolutely not. Allen absolutely not. But if I get 1 out of 4, I'm pretty happy with that. In terms of Allen and Wilson, I think they have been impacted by the fact that first, you've got Ronnie O'Sullivan and Neil Robertson withdrawing from the tournament. Yeah, there you go. Did Ronnie pull out? There you go. Reading your mind. Then you've got, there was one more that with, so Zhou Yulon and Jin Junhu are eliminated by Stan Moody. So another two Chinese players you could actually see getting quite far in this tournament, both of them being from China. Then you've got Kyron Wilson being eliminated by Aaron Hill. If you're concerned about me not mentioning what's happening on tape, don't worry. It's still a safety battle with now all the 9 reds being very close to that corner pocket. And yeah. Anyway, I would say it should have been a re-rack probably about 15 minutes ago. And they'll be absolutely mad if in the end they agree on a re-rack. And you had Barry Hawkins eliminated. You had Sean Murphy eliminated. Judd Trump eliminated. And John Higgins eliminated by Gary Wilson. So he certainly eliminated at least half of the top players' draw that would have been, some of them, one of the favourites for the tournament. Certainly Trump and Higgins. Then you had Selby eliminated by Williams. And then you had Williams eliminated by Godon there. So, in the end, some of the shockers, some of them not so much. But it all brings us into the last semi-final here of Gary Wilson against Mark Allen, and Xiao Godon waiting for them in the final. Would have thought, how on earth has Gary Wilson not potted the black there? I mean, he almost was like he went for it purposefully and just tried to get the cue ball as far away as possible. I would have thought Xington or Trump might have a run, but Trump has had a slow start to the season. I forgot about Xington, yeah. I mean, he's only got himself to blame. If you've seen the match against Maguire, I've only seen the last couple of frames, but I've seen the decider as well. I mean, Xington should have had that match done and over with on the frame number 8. Like, it shouldn't have even been 4-3 scoreline for Xington, but in the end he managed to lose that frame after putting a match ball. I mean, and then Maguire gets eliminated from Xiaowei on the next day. So, what's the point? Trump, yes, has had a slow start to the season, but to be fair to him, I can't really blame him too much. I think Higgins was playing badly against Wilson. I think Murphy was playing badly against Wilson. I think Trump was playing all right against Wilson, but he was just a bit too average, and certainly not the Judd Trump that you can say can beat anyone. Not the Judd Trump that got himself into a world number 1 spot with more than 500,000 of ranking points, clear of everyone else. And yeah, as I say that, Alan still hasn't decided on what to do with the next shot. So it's been an hour now of the 2 frames. The second one has already been half an hour, and as I say, there's absolutely no real guarantee of where this one is going to go. Wilson is leading by 27 points to 12. Allen, after careful considerations, puts his opponent back on the shot, and in the end goes for a cross double there, Wilson. So clearly a chance, an attempt to pot something. And at least we've got one red now that is not covered up by the pink and black. And the thing is, you know what I just realized? With the black being there is bad enough, but the pink being right in front of the black means we're not going to have the frame resume to the full extent until there is a foul. Because you can't legally pot the black right now from any sort of position unless you risk getting through the reds and stuff, which none of the players is going to do for sure. I mean, you could try and land perfectly on the side cushion and try and do something about it. And come on, Wilson, says Tom. Yes, Tom Williams, nice to see you once again. And yeah, I don't think... Yeah, I'll tell you what, I mean, all that, and they agree for a re-rack. Yeah, I think each of them should lose the final just for that. I don't know what on earth the plan was. I don't know how on earth they were planning to sort of get that frame underway, and he was always going to go there. And, you know, after half an hour of pointless safeties, there you get it. Now it's a re-rack. And, yeah, should have been an act like 15 minutes ago. I mean, there you go. Yeah, at least it wasn't 2 years. I mean, I'd say that. At least we're still in 2025. At least we're still in 2025. I think they probably realized because it's afternoon in Europe. I think it's late evening here in China. And they probably realized they would have ended up... No, seriously, on a serious note, I think this frame could have lasted for well over an hour. Like, it was there for 30 minutes and it's not like anything was done about it. But yeah, something that you would expect in the match of featuring Gary Wilson and Mark Allen. Certainly the second one. But I was a little bit... Wilson 6-3. It was the scoreline that Godun has beaten Williams by. So certainly could see that happening. I can't really see Allen winning 3 frames and not getting further than that. Surely if Allen's going to win some frames against Wilson, he's going to have to find some sort of momentum and form. And if he does find that sort of momentum and form, surely you win more than 3 frames. So that's my logic behind it. Not sure if I'm going to be in the minority on that one, but once again, a break from Mark Allen leaves Gary Wilson with a potential red to try and play on. And this time, just a nice little transition of the cue ball towards the black cushion. No maximums this week. So there's 2 that I'm aware of. Saugudun made one in his opening match against Ming Nucharut, and Chipchayonu has made one as well in the following day. So I think they're going to share the prize for that. Xington had a really strong chance of making a maximum against Julian Boyko in his qualifier round, but has missed the pink. That was so just the pink and the black remaining on the table, and he's missed a straightforward pink. Like, it wasn't like it landed with a weird angle. I think he just took his eye off the pot and yeah, missed that one. So a shame for him, but I don't think Gudun and Shipchayonu will be too mad about that, as last thing that those 2 would need is another player to be sharing the prize with. They already complain that it's too low for such a marvelous occasion. Imagine if you have to share with it with 3 people. Now, Gary Wilson is leading by 61% to 39% of Mark Allen in the poll who's going to win this match, with 75 people voting already. I mean, I would go with exactly the same, at least even before the first frame. I mean, we should do a poll. Is this match going to finish in less than 4 hours? I mean, I'll do that, funnily enough. So I'll end this one now. I think Wilson won it, fair enough. So 60% to Allen's 40. And we're going to start a poll. Is this match going to be under 4 hours? There you go. Straightforward, yes or no. I am genuinely curious to see what are people going to say about that. But now, once again, exchange of safeties and Allen's turn. I think it'll be over 4 hours, by the way. I think we could be here for a while. The cue ball seems to be going towards the green pocket area, but misses in the end. And Wilson's turn for a safety. So we'll see what's going to happen there, as Wilson doesn't seem to be able to get through to that red. Puchipchaya had a max in Saudi, then Ronnie took 2/3 of it away, and now he's sharing again. I mean, it's a brilliant point. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's better than not having a maximum at all, but can you imagine doing that? Doing 2 maximums and then having to share them? Ooh, I wouldn't want to do that. As Wilson seems to pop the cue ball here and give a ball in hand here to Mark Allen. And it's a ball in hand that is going to be costly for once. It's because Allen has got a couple of reds to choose from into the middle. So Gary Wilson clearly saying to the camera that he feels like that one faded badly. Not being happy with the table condition. We'll see about that. But now it's Allen with the first real chance for him to get a break on the board. And only the second time the points that he scores is not going to be from a foul of his opponent. As Allen goes for the blue there. So it's the first color that he managed to pot there. In the end, can't do any more than try and be back in this frame. And nicely done once again. So on the black there. So 11 points now to his name. Still has got a couple of colors to do something here. So he's got certainly black available. Blue is very much available. And the pink does seem to go to some of those pockets. Not all of them though. So now has got a couple of reds to try and deal with near the black spot. And Lands a little bit too straight on that one, Alan. I think you would have liked to be a little bit more with an angle to try and get on that red. Nice work, keep it up. Appreciate that. Good stuff. Some positivity in the chat. As yeah, he takes away that red completely, so he literally wipes it off the scale, and yeah, just a safety once again, unless he has got a plant here into the middle. And he certainly had one. As a backup option, that was brilliant there from Alan. 27 points. And all of a sudden, he's right back in it. And yes, still has a black there. As here you go, the black goes in. So 34 now, 30 on the break for Mark Allen. You would feel like with still 115 points being on the table, we need a little bit more than that. But for now, he's still in amongst the reds. There's got a couple of them on the top part of the table that can easily be played with the blue, should he run out of those on the bottom side of the table. And once again, the black is in once again. Said that twice, didn't I? Anyway, the black is in into the corner. So we'll break off 38 now. It's got one last red on the cushion to try and take out. And apart from that, the position should be really promising for him and straightforward to take advantage of. There's a smart switch of the play there. Goes onto the top part of the table to use the blue and those two reds to be eliminated, just to get himself a maximum points advantage over Wilson. He's looking for a second 50 plus break here of the two frames. Of course, that was well worth it in the end. Finally getting a re-rack, and now we can see some proper snooker being played. So 49 points now for him. The next color after this one will make it more than that. As, so he goes for the brown there. I expected him to go for the yellow there, but I suppose he gets the better angle of the brown there. So the red for a break of 50 here for the first time here for Mark Allen. Wilson already got one of 77 to his name. And is this night going to be under 4 hours? 58% say no, 42 say yes. I mean, I don't know what on earth those 42% are doing. 4 hours is not as much time as you think, but fair enough. With 11 frames being available to play, not sure can understand that logic, but we'll have to wait and see. I suppose if you're counting from the start game, I was meant like if it starts at 12:30 in the UK, it would end by 4:30. I wasn't mean like they were actually going to spend 4 hours on the table, but I suppose should have worded the question better then. For now, Allen gets himself into the bunch of reds and doesn't seem to have the best outcome. So does just about land on one into the left corner. And once again, underrun there for the blue and overrun for the pink. So not having a straightforward end to this break. And a finish to the second frame. Once again, has decided to go for the pink there. So easy in terms of getting the position on the shot. Not so easy in terms of potting the pink, but in the end doing everything in the correct manner. 63 points on the break being threatened now. As this time, once again, another red goes in. So a frame ball here with 67 points being the gap. 67 still being on the table. A frame ball for Mark Allen taken as the pink disappears. Nicely done for him. So we've had 2 frames with a break of at least 69. Of course, Allen's one is not over just yet. So there's not going to be any pings that appear unnecessarily, like that happened in the last frame with Wilson. Was on course for the century. but the pink blocking the red into the middle has ended that. As Allen's looking to equal the highest break of the match of 77 with the next red. Gary must not let Mark get going. Well, he just did. He basically just did, Gilbert. I mean, that's exactly what he's done to him. He's left him with a good position. You know, Allen didn't really have to work for it. And in the end, making the most out of it. Completing the highest break of the match so far. And now just a couple of shots away from the century break himself. After Wilson was unable to take his chance. So a break of 85. So should he takes the next red with the black, just 3 more shots remaining for him as the black disappears. So considering he will take the black on, it will just be this red and the next color, and indeed it will be. So for a century break, the black here for Mark Allen to get a perfect second frame on the ball at last. Now Wilson gets a century break there, Allen, and a brilliant break of his. Can still go for a 1-3-5 potentially. Now Wilson should sandbag him. No, absolutely not. I mean, I still wanna go to sleep today and not tomorrow. I mean, can you imagine if Gary Wilson started to play defensively against Mark Allen? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's like Mark Allen playing against Mark Selby in the decider of World Championship final. I mean, it's just never gonna end. Even if all the reds are open, they'll still be like, no, just a safety, just a safety. Allen, though, in terms of the break building, I mean, seriously wise, it has been a brilliant break from Allen. You know, he had one chance and he managed to take it to a century break. Could still complete a perfect sort of 1-3-5 break. Should the next 4 colors disappear. So once again, nicely on the blue there. So uses the cushion to get himself onto the pink. And lines this one up really, really nicely. So just the pink and the black there. Both attacking players, this is like a final. You telling me Mark Allen is an attacking player? I mean, I may not know snooker, as he ends up with a brilliant break of 1-3-5 there. Well, the fact that he can get a break of 1-3-5 doesn't mean he's an attacking player, and I'm pretty sure he isn't. He maybe was, but he certainly changed his game into the last couple of years, because I've seen a lot of speculation about it. He's certainly not an attacking player now. He's still good enough to string a really good break in, and when he's in with a chance, you would back him to try and finish the frame off from like 4 frames out of 7, but he's nowhere near an attacking player. Mark Allen, especially recently, I think in 2022, after he had a decent campaign in the World Championship, I think he said to one of the times he was being interviewed, it was before he was knocked out, I feel like I've never played better snooker in my life. And then every single one of them, players that have seen this interview, was just laughing on the TV and just saying, if that's the best you played, you're not going to win a World Championship to your name. And we'll see if that's going to happen. I might be wrong on that. I was wrong once before. I think it depends on what you mean. If you mean he can get a good break of a really high value, like he's just done there, a break of 135. When he's in with a chance, he certainly can do that, but he's not going to be one of those players like Gary Wilson, like Mark Williams, like sort of Elias Lesser, like Chris Wakelin, like Zach Doherty, that he's going to be taking a lot of those reds on and try and get them potted, like Zhao Xington. You know, the reason why he cost him so badly, because he was taking every single opportunity he had. And you feel like if it was Allen, he would just refuse 9 out of 10 of them. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way he plays it. But I don't think it's as brilliant and as pleasant to watch as sort of open game between Wilson and Trump as we've seen sort of a couple of days ago, it was brilliant. I mean, you can't say that Judd Trump is not an attacking player, and yet he was outplayed, clearly outplayed by Gary Wilson, especially in the late stage of the match. And you would hope for a similar sort of outcome here, but doesn't look like it's going to happen. With the second frame being very, very long, it's got, of course, compromised by the rear rack, but this time Wilson gets the third frame underway. So we're 2 frames in, and it's been over an hour already. So let's hope the things can speed up slightly more here, with at least one of them finding some sort of break building momentum. Allen has got a long pot to line up. The dangerous thing for Wilson to do is, of course, even though, as this time, Allen does seem to take the long pot on, misses it, and doesn't leave Wilson on anything, if any of the reds at all, to play even a safety from. But from Wilson's perspective, he needs to be careful that he is getting some of the table time, because one thing about Allen, no matter how sort of safety possession and safety based he is, he's still more than capable of doing you the damage with some of his breaks. And if he gets into a rhythm and if he gets into momentum, he can easily win 3-4 frames against you. And then at this point of the match, you will be over with 5-1 lead. So Wilson needs to make sure he sort of stays in the match and puts himself in the equation. As for now, we start the third frame the way we start the first two, with a safety battle. And Wilson comes to the table now after a good shot there from Allen, putting him in a little bit of trouble. But nothing too significant at this point of the match. It's still been earlier on in this third frame. So the referee will just ask Wilson to check the position of the cue ball in case you have to be put back. And I mean, it's a brilliant shot if you're playing sort of more of Eastern European billiard, as we would call it, but it's not necessarily going to be beneficial if you're playing snooker there, as Gary Wilson gives away 4 points there to Mark Allen as a foul, and also leaves the red over the pocket, and could be quite costly mistake this is. He's smiling, Gary Wilson, but I wouldn't see too much of the funny side of things, as he gives Allen a really good chance into this frame. You know, he just has to roll that red in, find himself on the black, so just has to bounce off the cushion. Hasn't done that, and it's a waste from Allen straight away. Should have been a lot closer to the black there, and lost a lot less of an angle. And will probably still try and take it on, but leaves himself with the cue ball going into the bunch of the reds with not a lot of power. The black ball is in, which is a positive for Mark. And the cue ball has actually landed on the red nicely as well. So he's still in this. Still in this with a chance. 12 points scored. 8 of them on the break. And if he does the same thing he's done last frame, Wilson, in the space of sort of 25 minutes or so, could find himself from battling in the second frame to losing by 2 frames to 1 already, and will be in risk of going into the second session with a 3-1 deficit. Very much possible, remember, as both Wafai and Allen, and both Si Jiahui and Allen, have been exchanging in the sort of streaks of frames won. You know, Mark Allen won the first one, then Si Jiahui won the next 3, and then Allen responded with 3 of his own, and won a decider after that as well. For now, he's missed the red into the middle, and he's left Wilson with a chance. So certainly not going to be the story of the last frame, as Allen has already made 1 more mistake than he's managed to do in the previous one. Wilson now will try and exploit his options. I think he'll be aiming for the blue after this red. Depends on which one he is going to take, with the 2 being available into the right corner pocket. I think the first one is probably not really visible to him because of the pink, but the second one is now into the pocket, and it's Wilson now with the start of his break. Both players have had Only one visit to the table in terms of the break building in the second and first frames. And I've got a 1 frame each now on the score sheet. I think it'll be really important to see who's going to win this one, as that person will guarantee himself not to be losing come the 15-minute break, and will be very much still with a chance of coming into that break actually winning and having a cushion to his name of 2 frames. So once again, Wilson there not doing perfect cue action, just leaving himself vulnerable on that red. Being so close to the cue ball that he's going to be hard to bridge over to play for the pink there. It's not the sort of shot that you want to be taking on at this stage. And with the position being wide open as it is, it's not going to be easy, this is for sure. Has to just try and roll through with a lot of topspin. But the priority has to be to get the pink in. And it hasn't dropped there. So Wilson once again feeling like he has faded. But I do feel like he has played that one with a little bit of a less space than was required. And certainly I would feel like it was his mistake. You'll probably feel different about it. But Mark Allen comes back now to the table. So both players have had 1 mistake more than they managed in each of the frames they won. And Allen now gets a second chance to get his this frame on the board for him. And he's already 6 points clear, making that 12 as he drops that pink that was covering the middle pocket, or the majority of it. Still has a lot of reds to play around. We'll have to do that in and around the pink and the blue spot, as the black is still being covered up. Just checking the position of the reds there, because even though I say he's got 3 more at least to his name, you'll need more than that if he wants to win this frame in the current visit. So taking his time on the pink once again, but in the end sending it into the middle of the pocket. So the positive for Allen is it does look like the pink does go to all 4 of the pockets that you can try and potentially play to. So both corner ones and certainly both middle pockets as well. So that allows Allen to be playing in and around the pink spot and not really requiring the blue for at least the time being. In being 20 points clear already, still 99 on the table. And a little hesitation there, but seems to get on with it quickly. Doesn't want to waste too much time, Allen. As I say, I think momentum will be key in this match. I think sort of mistakes-wise it's been equal. But, you know, Allen just got himself in that good position earlier than Wilson. And with the position being tough at that time, you always looked like Wilson was going to make 1 mistake sooner rather than later and leave Allen with another chance. The question is, can Allen make this visit to the table last in this frame? Or are we going to see Gary Wilson come back at least to the table for 1 more time in the current frame? And this time it's Allen that complains that, you know, it's faded away badly for him, and don't think, given the tournament, a lot of sort of advertisement there. In the end, the ping ball has fallen in there, but Allen doesn't seem to be happy with it at all. And bear in mind, Wilson was complaining about the pink in the first frame. He has missed the pink underrunning slightly to the middle. And of course, the shot that Allen was complaining on was the pink as well. So could it be just a coincidence? Could it be something wrong there with the pink? Something that is confusing both players in the same fashion. For now though, even with that mistake, Allen seems to be in with a chance, but that little cannon on the black doesn't help him, and he needs now to check if he can get through to that red. It doesn't seem like he can. A little shake of the head there, so there's your confirmation on the screen. He can't get through to it. And it's going to be the end of a break here. Unless he decides to go for a really tough cut into the right corner there. 33k difference on this. Does Gary look nervous to you? Not yet. I wouldn't say you'll be nervous with one frame, one each, but Alan there with a brilliant shot. I think you'll start to get nervous when he starts to miss the chances. Because remember, he was behind to Trump by 3 frames to 1, and he was playing all right. Like, he wasn't playing badly, he wasn't playing brilliantly. But he was able to just say, you know what, if I can just focus on my own game and improve it after the interval, he was a new player, and he was playing really well. And it just proves you, even when you have someone like Judd Trump next to you and opposing you, there's a nice little cluster there from Alan. Disappears now, so 4 more reds available to him. You only need a couple more. That's the first one disappears. So 67 points on the table, 48 is the gap. So 1 more red and 1 more color. I think after this pink will do the job potentially here for Mark. Yeah, so the pink will put him 54 points clear. The red will increase that to 55. And one of the pink or black will put him past that rainbow area. So I don't think it will be a massive thing about money here for them. I think it will be more about the final spot where you can actually get that money, if you know what I mean. So I think for now, they'll still be competing for the sake of, I want to be in the final to make sure I get to triple that money and a lot more, basically. If you think about Gary Wilson's ranking points, he's got 376 to his name right now in the past 12 months. I mean, he's pretty much going to double that should he win it. A little bit less than that, but still, as Alan comfortably away in this frame. So, pots the black and then follows up straight away with a nice red as well. So, all of a sudden, that 1-0 cushion for Wilson turns into 2-1 advantage to Alan. As after that re-rack, he has managed to run away with it in the next 2 frames. Wilson had a chance in the third one, has underrun on the pink there, left his opponent the second chance in the frame, and that was all Alan needed for a brilliant frame-winning break. This time doesn't look like it's going to be a century with Alan running out of position there, so needs a blue to continue here. And can't quite make it in there. So it'll be the end of a frame here. And it will be Mark Allen with a 2-1 lead against Gary Wilson. So winning 2 frames on the bounce. Can he win 3 in a row and do exactly the same thing as he's done against Si Jiawei in the quarterfinal, losing the opening frame, winning the next 3. And then still very much putting himself in the equation. So is this match going to be under 4 hours? Yes, say 70%. No, it's going to end 30. I mean, I'm going to end that. I mean, it's going exactly against the streamer there. And fair enough, I would say, about that. But listen, I probably worded that question incorrectly. I meant when it starts at 12:30 or 7:30 in China, is it going to finish before sort of 11:30? I didn't mean like the match is going to be, the table time is going to be 4 hours for the players, but that was probably my bad for not wording it correctly. One way though, is Mark Allen or Gary Wilson going to be the favourite against Xiao Godun? I'm not going to put that as a poll because the wording is going to be difficult once again, but it's an interesting point, that is, because technically Allen will be a person that is higher than Godun in the ranking, in the WST ranking phase, in terms of the ranking points scored of the 12 months. He won't be if he loses this match because, you know, Godun getting 70,000 more than him. And, well, we'll see about that. I think it's going to be really difficult for anyone to challenge Godun in the circumstances that it's going to be played on the Chinese arena, in the Chinese city, and with the sightseeing of a Chinese crowd that I think very much will be cheering their own man to win this type of a match. But first, one of them, it has to beat their opponent. And Wilson was off to a great start in the first frame. You know, second one felt like it took forever until we actually decided to get a re-rack. Both players agreeing on it after 30 minutes of action. Alan manages to get a brilliant break of 135 in that second frame after the re-rack. And then closes off the third one with a break of 66, just able to do the damage after early mistake from Wilson. And it's Alan with a break off to get the fourth and final frame of the mini session underway. Until we go for a mid-session interval at least. Wilson once again has got a shot to try and line up as a safety transition once again. He has been playing that one for quite a few times. Once he's managed to leave Alan with a shot into the middle, but the other one refused it. And once again, so he's going to be playing off one of the reds just below the pink, but I think they aim to split up the position. As once again, the thing about Alan, even though he is certainly not an attacking player for me, when he's got momentum, he understands that this is a chance for him to try and pounce on. So the position will be open for break building for either of them. But for now, Alan makes a mistake there and leaves a chance to Wilson. So opening up that position hasn't worked out too nicely for him. But Gary doesn't seem to have a perfect trajectory here on the cue ball. In the end, landing probably favorably for the brown. Does decide to go for the yellow into the middle. So we'll have to consider to sort of snooker his opponent, but as I said, I don't really see any value in doing that. With still 14 reds being spread out across the table and with no real chance for Alan to give away one, especially should he come away with a decent safety shot of one way, shape or form. So does indeed go for a shot into the middle for yellow there, Wilson. And it's worked out for him really nicely. So one thing you certainly want to see in a match like this is both players going head to head in terms of attacking style. If they manage to do that, it'll be a brilliant spectacle to watch. And it'll be a pleasure to see one of them win it. Even after the second frame. As long as that doesn't continue and it doesn't happen again, as Wilson seems to run out of position there. So while he was chalking his cue, he seems to have just frozen there and sort of in disbelief, where he's seen how far the cue ball has managed to run. Left him with an awkward angle on the yellow once again, so taking the lowest value color for the second time here. And this time it's in, so going into the bunch of reds and worked out pretty nicely for him, I would say. Freeing up the pink for good measure as well, just below the black spot, but probably only for one shot, as he will be surrounded by the reds should he go back on its spot there. Gary needs this frame, absolutely does. Absolutely does. Because if Alan is leading by 3 frames to 1, another thing you can't really do to Mark Allen is, not too sure if that red is available into the right corner pocket, the one that I thought he landed on. He seems to be taking it on with the rest. Just checking once again. And yeah, one thing you can't allow Alan to do is dictate the run of play. Even when he's 1 frame away, he can't sort of guarantee himself, as Wilson makes a horrible error, goes for the red that he probably should have never gone for. I mean, it looked like he would have been touching the red. In the end, he didn't touch the red. He absolutely hit the red properly, changed the trajectory completely, and now left Alan with a chance of his own. So something that we've seen against, you know, sort of Sean Murphy to an extent, and certainly John Higgins yesterday, is happening against Wilson. But with the first two not really being able to take their chances, Alan has certainly been able to do so in the second and third frame. Can he do that third frame in a row here and put himself with a lovely little cushion, and as I say, just allow himself to control the run of the play here, because he can sort of feel like if he's got the momentum, he can try and be aggressive to an extent that he develops the position for himself nicely, and he has got that feeling that he'll be the first man to land in that position. But to do that, he needs to stop missing the blue off the spot. And technically, it's been one of the easiest shots that you can try and miss. So Wilson only concedes 1 point there to Allen, and he won't be happy with himself there. The man from Northern Ireland. And back to the table comes Wilson. Nice little cannon into the red. Ends up nicely on the green. So far, 2 yellow and, well, potentially green here potted for Wilson. And I certainly think Gary needs this frame, but he also needs the table time. And he also needs to get some of his confidence back that he seems to have lost in those 2 frames. Of course, the first one was a massive momentum breaker for him in terms of, getting anything off the table time and just playing the safety after safety there. And in the end, whilst the safety battle ended with a re-rack, it was Allen with an early chance that he was able to put into a break of 135. So for the first time in this frame, Gary lands on the expensive color. It'd been the pink. It's freed up the pink spot nicely with the red, with the last red he just played there. There used to be in around the pink spot. So the position is looking a lot better for him this time. Just the reds that seem to be running out of in terms of the ones that are in open play. So the color-wise, you can still be playing for 2 of the bold colors and the pink now, with the blue and the black still being not available for now. I think that will be a thing for Wilson to worry about a little bit later on. So now he just has to make the most out of the reds that he's got. So 24 points. And now it's got 1 into the middle there. Red to follow up with the pink into the left corner pocket. With the next red to follow up in the same pocket, it would seem, as well. After that, you'll have to go in behind one of those reds on the right side of the table and try and play one of them into either left corner pocket or the left middle pocket there. It depends on which one of them he decides to have a go at. But now we'll break off 25 here with 31 points scored. So second break here already for Gary Wilson. Him not looking to make anything away from the first one, but so far a lot better on the second one, as he has a rest shot there to make that 26. So 31 points ahead now with only 83 points on the table. So not too many reds are still remaining here. And if he just sort of eliminates the next 3, maybe 4 of them, he'll certainly be able to get the 4th frame on his score sheet. So for now, it doesn't land perfectly on either one of those reds. And I think the one that is a little bit closer to the top side of the table is going to be easier for him to play. Just not as much of the cue ball is going to be targeted and covered up by the red that Wilson has to bridge over to reach to his target. Red, in the end, nicely done. Lands perfectly on the pink. And the slightest of angles there is going to be enough for him to try and just screw back a touch onto that red. Probably a transition this time for one of the bold colors. Maybe even the blue, it being on the favorable side of the table. And as much as Wilson probably needed this frame, I mean, Allen would certainly have liked to win this frame. Get himself a 2-frame cushion before the break, 3 frames on the bounce. Could be a straightforward win for him, and pot to the final. But now it's looking like won't happen, and very much looking like Wilson is going to be heading with the interval with a frame on his board late on, so winning the first and the last one, with Allen winning the 2 in between. 51 points is the deficit, with 59 on the table now as the red disappears, so making that 52 points of a difference, but landed awkwardly there on the pink, of course, which will make a 58 point of a gap. Still 59 on the table. So a couple of shots away here for Wilson from securing the fourth frame, but doesn't seem to be making his job too easy at the moment. You know, he's done well with the position he's had. You know, it wasn't easy, but now has to probably travel around the table. Has to miss the yellow and the blue. Missed the yellow there, but didn't miss the blue. And in the end, it is a 58-point cushion here for Gary Wilson with 59 points on the table. So this is now where the interesting stuff comes away. Is he going to go for that risky shot into the right corner, or is he going to go just for a safety now? Can't really afford to be leaving reds with the black there, but the black is covered up by those three reds, so is he going to get himself a chance? Doesn't seem like he wants to do that, so he just goes for a safety on one of the reds on the left-hand side. And just pushes the black towards the pocket there. I'm having flashbacks from last frame. I don't want this to happen again. Not again. The black covering up that pocket. Please no. I mean, we're going to be here for half an hour. It looked like the frame was about to be over, and now I'm just getting a little deja vu from the second frame. And please, not another 30 minutes of safety. I mean, Alan does need to get himself back in this frame with 58-point gap. So I think that shot from Wilson probably helps Alan to an extent, as it now frees up the black. But first things first, needs to get himself a safety. Alan, and does that, lands the cue ball really nicely there on the cushion. So don't think Wilson will be able to get anything apart from a safety on this shot, as Alan still survives. You know, in terms of the colours, with the black being available now, it's all very much looking very promising for Mark. But being 58 points clear for Wilson is going to be a confidence builder. Just has to make sure he doesn't go for one of those reds that, you know, he's sort of not feeling entirely confident, because should he miss it and leave it over the pocket, blink and you'll miss it. It'll be 59 points for Mark Allen and a win in the fourth frame. That will be a massive steal for him. And even now, you can just see Wilson not being too confident which shot to play and just taking his time. Probably will go for a safety to push the cue ball onto the bulk area, but once again, gets down to hit the shot and goes back up again. So, yeah, another hesitation and a little pause here and delay in the game. It looked like it was going to be a straightforward safety for him. May actually force him to go into this pot now, as he goes for the middle shot. And in the end, lands it pretty much safe there. Leaves a similar sort of shot to Allen into the same pocket, with him using a different shot there. But the thing about Allen, though, he doesn't really want to miss it and leave it on top of part of the table, because remember, he will have to pot every single one of those reds with the black to give himself a chance of winning the fourth frame. That was risky. It was, but I think he was always going to, the way he played that, with the amount of force he played that, he was always going to be leaving him, Allen, with a pot into the middle, but he was never really going to leave him with the same red that he tried to play. I think it's more of a, this red he has to be worried about. This is a chance for Allen to try and pot it into the middle, and he did. So that was something that I thought was risky from Wilson to do, because he was always going to leave that red into the pocket for Allen, and all of a sudden he takes it. I mean, he still has to do something with the black here, with him landing a little bit awkward on it. Should be alright. Just has to be mindful that he will be going back on his spot after. And nicely done. And wow, what a steal this would be, as I say. Wilson will be absolutely kicking himself. Surely there was some sort of safety shot he could have played on the shot before. I mean, I'm not convinced that it was a bad shot, but it certainly should have been better in terms of the cue ball control. I mean, forget about that red. He was never going to land over the pocket with the pace he was playing there, Wilson, but the cue ball was always going to leave a pot chance to Allen, and fair play if he misses it, but he didn't. And now he's 10 shots away now, Mark Allen, from clinching the fourth frame. 42 points behind, still 43 on the table. He is fine to give himself just that 1 point cushion at the end of the frame should the last black go in. But now the only problem for him being that red on the top part of the table, which is the same, of course, as the Wilson played for that attacking shot, which in the end has led to Allen having this chance. Needs to make sure, Allen, that he got some sort of angle on this black. What a steal this is. It will be a massive steal if he gets. He's not quite there yet. Still has to deal with that red on the top part. He absolutely rockets that black in. Could have missed it. Didn't miss it though. And he's landed perfectly on that red. So give himself an angle to go in between the pink and the black. And once again, that transition from black to the yellow will be probably the last shot he'll be concerned about. From there, it should be a straightforward ending. I mean, I say that. I thought one shot too soon. He probably thought it one shot too soon. And he's missed that red that looked like he's landed absolutely perfectly on. And it was more difficult to miss than to actually pot. He's ended up perfectly on the black. But he hasn't got even close to the pocket there. And yeah, massive miss there for him. Doesn't give anything away to Wilson that is sort of straightforward and easy. But it's a chance, and the fact that he's allowed him back in this frame is a problem and an issue in itself for him. Now Allen cocks it up. Well, I mean, he does. Can't really call that anything apart from that. And Wilson, if the red ball would have been a little bit further away from the blue, I think he could have tried to go for a snooker in behind the blue, but instead, he has to go for a safety shot. Don't think he was trying to play it aggressively there, but with the power that actually applied on that red, doesn't convince me too much that he actually was playing with the safety in mind. So I don't know what on earth he was doing, but was a mile away from the pot and was a mile away from a safety there. Dude, what is this frame? I mean, what is this match? Is that not what we expected it to be? Two good frames in terms of break building and 2 frames of an absolute nightmare. Yeah, Allen has to just take away that red from the middle pocket onto the cushion and back to the safety we go. No real sign that that this will end anytime soon. As Wilson goes for 2 cushion shot there on the white. The red nicely lands on top of the brown there, so only has the left edge of the red there to see Mark Allen, but that should be enough for him to have a decent safety of some sort, aiming that cue ball back towards the sort of pink and black area. So decides to go for a different shot, decides to put the yellow in between the cue ball and the red, and I'm not too sure he's played that one too well. Potentially has left the chance here for Wilson. If not to pot, then certainly to get this red away from danger. And yeah, we'll try and push it probably onto the cushion from here and try and do a similar thing to what Allen did. And ends up right below the yellow, so not going to be too awkward because of the distance between the cue ball and the red being insignificant. But still not the easiest shots for Allen to play. And as this time, it's a brilliant shot there for Allen played. I mean, it wasn't the easiest, but what an outcome for him. Wilson has got a snooker to try and play off, and it's not an easy one. There's so much distance between the cue ball and the red not being entirely on the cushion, so could go around it and could leave a free ball as well there. Needs to make sure he gets this one, and also can't afford to give it away. But Wilson playing it really, really nicely. catches it full ball there and stays within contention here. Alan once again can't really risk for a pot here, as there's no way he's going to be holding out for the black, which is the color that he needs to win this frame without a respot. So just a careful safety shot and aiming that cue ball towards the bulk area. In the end, getting a little bit lucky with that kiss on the brown. And now the turn goes back to Wilson here. So asking the referee just to check the position of the cue ball and some of the other colors, just in case he does miss this shot. And the cue ball has to go back exactly on where it was before. Remember, 25 points here for Alan, 59 for Wilson. 34 is the difference and 35 still on the table. So 1 point could be crucial, as Wilson seems to take in the risk there in terms of not hitting it high enough, but in the end judging the pace perfectly. And gives Alan a straightforward safety to try and play here. Can try and potentially hit the thinnest of edges of the red here and trying to just put it on top of something like the yellow. Put the red quite close to the black and the pink area and leave Gary with another snooker to try and play from. I think this is the shot that he's attempting. I think it's a miskiss in the yeah, I think it's a miscue in the end. And Wilson got away with one there. I think that certainly wasn't the plan. There's a laugh about it, so certainly seeing the funny side of it. But gave away a straightforward safety shot to his opponent now. As I think Wilson will try and do something that Alan wasn't able to, as in the end refuses that one. So he always has the option of just skip the left hand side of that red and travel back to the bulk line. So does indeed go for the shot that Alan attempted to play there, catches the blue on the way in. And don't think he's got the job done there. I think Alan can see through that gap of the pink and the black. Yeah, those 4 frames have been played out almost for 2 hours already. And yeah, we don't even know the winner of this one yet. As Alan lands a brilliant safety shot there. Once again has got Wilson in all sorts of trouble. Nifty shot by Alan, yeah. I mean, not too sure what nifty is, but probably. There you go. But particularly good, skillful. Now I know that. So a nifty shot by Alan. I'll use that. I'll steal that from you. Wilson needs to make sure he gets this one first time, and he does. Certainly put a lot of power on that shot, as the cue ball seems to be going quite close to the pocket, but not into it. So once again, Alan with a chance of a decent safety. He's had a few of those recently, and just putting Wilson under all sorts of pressure, being the man setting up the pace of this frame, even though he's the one trailing. And that kiss on the green might actually help Alan massively for a potential snooker once again, as the blue this time seems to be in the way of the cue ball and the remaining red ball there. And the problem with this shot is, if Wilson decides to go off the right rail cushion there, so it decides to swerve around it, it would seem. And you know, in the end, he could just about see the finest of the edges, but I think Alan will see a little bit more than that, as he's got a potential long shot to line up. The cue ball positioning from Wilson wasn't bad, but the red ball was certainly dreadful. But remember, Alan needs to play this with absolutely no pace on it. Just drop this red and line himself for the black. Makes that pot a little bit harder, but in the end managed beautifully there. And Yeah, very much in with a chance here, Mark Allen. I did say he was the one setting up the pace of the recent safety shots. And now he's got 7 more pots for a mighty steal in this frame number 4. As the first shot doesn't really do him any favor. Lands awkwardly on the yellow, and the green bean on the same cushion as the yellow pocket. It's going to be really difficult to try and transition from yellow from that sort of angle onto the green, unless once again you go around the entire table, which makes the pot from the rest almost impossible to do all those things at once. But Alan has to find some sort of answer to it. And for the time being, just put the yellow in the first place and then try and potentially line up with a little bit of distance between the cue ball and the green onto the yellow pocket. Now 25 points on the table as once again the referee just signaling to one of the crowd members, as we've seen that quite a lot throughout the campaign. Crowd getting a little bit out of hand, but most of the time that's happened when the Chinese players and the home favourites were losing. This match doesn't really have a Chinese home favourite, yep. And a really good shot there from Allen. In the end, just a little bit unlucky not to get a snooker. And turn goes back to Wilson, who's still only 1 pot away from clinching the 4th frame and making it a 2-all draw ahead of the 15 minutes interval. After quite a lengthy clash, with it being already almost 2 hours time, as Wilson is unhappy with the table once again and needs the blue to come to his rescue, and I don't think he has. And Allen with a prime chance once again to try and do something about it and surely put an end to this frame. Should he make this green? He does. 38 points now scored for him. Looking to make that 42 with the brown. We'll need 4 of those colors remaining, and it will be damage done here to Gary Wilson. And Allen will have 50% of his job done, but for that he needs still to do some work, and he hasn't been able to do even the first part of it. You know, he's got the green in, but that hasn't helped him massively, as he misses the brown and leaves it for Wilson. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a complicated shot in terms of it being on the cushion, the cue ball, but still should do a lot better than he has. And, well, let's see what Wilson can do from here. Don't think he can even think about one sort of aggressive shot that he can play. So certainly just try and put some distance between the cue ball and the brown. He decides to bring the blue into equation, but not enough pace on that shot, and Allen will have a much easier safety shot to his name than it could have been. In the end, putting the distance between the cue ball and the brown himself. And looking good this is. Needs to run the cue ball. Don't think he's run quite far enough there. So Wilson with a little bit of a difficult shot, but would have been a lot more difficult had the cue ball gone down 2-3 centimeters further than he has. For now, it's Wilson with a shot onto the brown. Once again, as he always is today, unhappy with the table and the cloth in there. So Allen still is in this frame, which is miraculous to be saying after, you know, he was it 50 points down with 51 on the table. You know, all of a sudden now he finds himself 21 points down, 22 on the table. So has been so far able to do damage limitation and stay in this match. Now, once again, needs a decent safety to find. Goes for a cross double. The brown trajectory is looking good, but the cue ball is going to be nowhere near the blue, so no chance of a snooker there. Just a decent safety from the world number 11. And it's the world number 18 that has to respond to it. Once again, Wilson For all the chances he's had to put this frame to bed, he hasn't been able to use them. And his safety game just hasn't been on the game it should be when you're up against someone like Mark Cullen and when you're a stage of a ranking event semi-final. Once again, Allen just checking the brown there and its positioning, maybe trying to catch the brown on the way back of the cue ball, bouncing off the cushion. A little bit of backspin there for him to make sure that the pace of the cue ball will be stopped as soon as it hits the brown. Those types of shots can put the snooker to the player that you're playing against, but there you go. Once again, Wilson just asking the referee to say a couple of words to the crowd. And after she does that, Wilson is ready to get down for his next shot. And this one looks good. This one looks very good. And it is a brilliant shot there from Gary Wilson that finally could win in the frame. Should Mark Allen miss this brown, he will need snookers to be back in it. So, in fairness, it probably should go the way like this. I mean, Wilson has had chances, but Allen has also had multiple chances to win this frame. You know, that brown that he missed off the cushion. Solid snooker this. Even if he does make it, Allen, he still needs to judge the pace of the cue ball landing on it perfectly. So he hasn't made it. And the cue ball could have dropped into the pocket. It hasn't. And Wilson will probably ask Allen to put from the same position here, because he's not allowed to put him back for the same type of shot, simply being Allen can't possibly catch him at this moment in time. So Wilson now just happy to sort of play the game of safeties and carefully just make his way through this frame. It being a pure formality with 4 colors remaining, you would think. But with the way this match has gone already, Wilson still needs to get over the line with his brown in, and he does so certainly looks like with the other frame here, but he found himself a snooker. No, he doesn't. Wilson is fine. So 29 points clear, so as soon as he hits that blue, I think Mark Allen will concede the frame, and the blue is in as well, so a brilliant performance there in the end by Gary Wilson. Finally gets this frame over and done with. Would it all be a first score? Yeah, probably. Think about it, I think it would be, as both of them go straight for the break there. Nice spot, and another one, GG's. Yes, it is GG's indeed, and it is 2 frames all. I think it is a frame. It is a fair scoreline. I think with Wilson winning the first one and the last of the frames, Allen winning the 2 in between, probably each of those frames was deserved. And in the end, we'll be back for some more action in 15 minutes time. So feel free to tune in for that one. And for now, thank you very much for watching, and feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you like this sort of content on the channel. We're doing more of that as the China Grand Prix will be coming in handy straight after the Wuhan Open campaign has come to an end. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, for some more action as the intermission is now over. And it is Gary Wilson with a brilliant break-off here to leave Mark Allen finding a safety, which he does find in the end. And once again there, it's not the first time one of the people in the crowd has asked to be a little bit more quieter than he already is. And by both Gary and Mark, so both seeing the funny side of it, as they have done for the majority of this match. Not hard feelings between the two of them as of yet, but that still could be about to change, as only one of them will reach this season's Wuhan Open final. And Wilson finds a brilliant shot there, so even though he is laughing about it, he's certainly finding some of his form earlier on here. And off to a good start as the yellow to follow up. And it's now 3 points to his name. So still has a lot of reds to work with. Needs to get through to the lower part of the table first. This now gets another red in. And has to roll through on this blue ball here. And done nicely in the end. So has got a red along the cushion to play. Don't think he's got a black available though to him, so we'll have to settle for the pink and the blue for now. It being the maximum that he's got right now, and hasn't to run for the pink slightly. So has to take avoiding action on it and play with as little force as possible on it if he can. In the end, doing nicely there. Has he overrun it for the red? He has, and he's left himself with probably a safety to play. So only 16 points there for him. Looks like an end of a break, which he just confirmed with that shot of the black. So once again, just pushing that black towards the right corner pocket. We all know what happened the first time he's done that, and of course the second time he was able to win the frame of number 4. Now Allen has got a safety of his own once again onto the red. That is one of the lower ones available to him, and nicely done this time. And once again, Gary Wilson there will have some sort of chance to his name. Nicely done there once again on the safety shot. Cue ball's running quite closely there towards the green. In the end, no snooker there for Allen, but still not going to be an easy shot for him to play, as he just has a little look along the cushion there just to see what's available for him. Doesn't seem to be too much at this moment in time. So just has to roll this one through and make sure that the cue ball is back alongside the ball carrier. And nicely done. So very much once again Wilson has to take matters into his own hands and find a decent safety shot. I would say it's still very much 50-50 between the two players in terms of the safety game. I think both have made some significant errors, and both have been brilliant on some occasions, as once again Wilson finds a good shot of his own. Leaves Allen with not so much to try and deal with. I think one of the reds second closest to the right rail there will be available for him to try and get the safety from and just get the cue ball towards that green pocket. But the problem with that is, of course, he has to go around the red, make sure he doesn't catch it. So off 2 cushions and get the cue ball back in safe there. So it doesn't seem to be as straightforward as I've got it in my head, as Alan seems to be checking some sort of a bounce of the cushion. And in the end, just checking as well on that shot on the left hand side, just rolls up to the red. And in the end, it's Wilson's turn, after Alan is unable to do any sort of damage of his own. And once again, back to the table comes Wilson there. We see what will happen here. So far, once again, an early safety battle between the two players. And neither have been unable to be so clinical as we would like them to be. And there Wilson once again goes for the green pocket shot. In the end, safely on the black and not giving any reds away to Alan. So I think he'll take that. Nicely done again. And Alan just checking the options that he's got to himself. Not too sure what he's going to have to play here with that red covering the top side of the table. Has to be mindful of it. Should the cue ball be in the area that it's visible from, and there you can see he's just trying to make sure there's a green behind the cue ball and the red ball on the top part of the table. So we'll have to lead the cue ball somewhere around that area. Pushes one of the rods towards the right corner pocket, and in the end does it rather nicely as well. Wilson has got a chance once again to play a decent safety shot of his own after Alan was unable to put him under no real scrutiny or pressure. And once again, they're just not being overly confident with the way he's approaching his shot. In the end, just goes for a straightforward safety, but catches the other red. The cue ball is not quite as close to the cushion as he would have liked it to be. Leaves a potential chance away for Alan into the left middle. It's difficult to take on though. You'll feel like Alan will have to refuse it and go for an alternative there. Has got one more red into the green pocket as well, but not that that's going to be any easier for him to try and put. I think he's always been looking for a safety shot here of one of the reds quite close to each other on the right rail cushion. In the end, still no decision made, as there seems to be one now. He will indeed be playing off one of those two reds off the right rail cushion and just send the cue ball back towards the sort of yellow zone, but that was the plan for him. The execution wasn't there. And Wilson once again with a chance as he comes back to the table. On the fourth frame, Gary Wilson will very much like to win the fifth one as well. Get himself back ahead in this encounter. First red is nicely in there. A chance here for Wilson. Wilson should pounce, he should. The position looking nicely. And I'd say the first shot is not going to be straightforward for him, as transition from the blue to the lower part of the table ain't going to be straightforward for him. This is a good position. It is in terms of reds. The colors still will need some work to do. The pink being covered up, the black being covered up for now. And I think he'll try to get that red away from that right cushion to free up the black as soon as possible, maybe even now. If you can just try and get through to it, this will become, the position will become a lot better from it. And he's been able to do that perfectly there, Wilson. 23 points now, 7 on the break. Still to Alan 0 after the interval. So a real chance here to put himself, well, 30 points clear for now. And then build up on it. As it landed perfectly on this red once again. That bounce away from the cushion was just probably a centimeter or two too much for him. And nicely done though, nicely dealt with. Has got 3 or 4 reds to try and deal with easily there, with the couple more being in reasonable position as well. So with a good positional play, he should be able to get on those as well, but I don't think he'll need all of them for the frame win. Don't think he'll be thinking about anything else for now. He's got 38 points to his name already, 99 on the table. Be 91 when this red disappears. He needs to pass that red on the cushion, does it nicely. So once again on the black with an angle, try and potentially line up that red into the right middle. And Wilson there decided to hold back there slightly more than he had to last time. And landing nicely on the shot into the right corner. So refusing the risky one to the right middle. Going for the more conservative one in terms of the positional play. Has got a chance to land on the blue once again here. Can try and do the same with the black though. But it will be a touch harder for him from this position and from the angle he's got himself in. So decides to settle in between on the pink. So the pink is clearly potable, which I didn't think it was. Into the left corner. And once again, nice little screw back on the red into the right middle. So a break of 37 and fast approaching a frame ball here. That little 16 points gap that he had before this break has started has done him a favor. As he goes to back to his chair just to wait for the referee to check if the pink is going to be going back on his spot. Doesn't seem like it will be, but the referee will check to make sure. And then the play should resume from there. For now, once again, the decision is made and the pink will indeed go back on his spot. The shot for Wilson to play into the right middle for now. And potentially, once again, has got the angle to go back for the pink or the black. Just checking if the pink is spottable from this position. After the referee's adjustments back to his pocket, back to his spot. And decision made. And just seems to be landing on top of the pink there. Does it nicely once again. So with 75 points on the table, the pink will put him 60 ahead. So the next red and the color should do the job for him really, really nicely. And a brilliant start it's going to be to the 5th frame for Gary Wilson. So starting after the interval exactly the way he started this match. With a win in the 1st frame. Now to back it up with a win in the 5th frame as well. As once again there, just a little check from Wilson to ensure once again that nothing's changed on the pink and it's still potable. Does anybody know how to watch this live? You've got 2 options that I'm aware of. You can either check the WSD Snooker app for the information based on your region, or you can download and get yourself a TNT subscription. Should be able to watch it from there. For now, it's a frame ball here for Gary Wilson. Red along the cushion to put himself 67 points clear with 59 on the table, as he does. So a brilliant pot there for him. And now, once again, on the black to make sure that Mark Allen won't be returning to the table in search of the snookers. And a really good break here already of 58 points. Could make it his highest of the match. Should he pot a couple of reds after this one. The most important thing for him is that this frame has been won. So 75 points here for him. 59 on the break will be 66 with the black. And once again there, nicely done by Wilson. Just leaves himself with a shot into the middle to play. In behind that red, does it really nicely once again there. So still 43 points on the table after this blue. So more than enough for a century. But the problem for him is, of course, the 2 reds positioned very close to the problem the problems themselves. So one of them being quite close to the pink and the other one being dead on the cushion. Wilson decides to target the one on the cushion first. And we'll have now the angle to end up on the black. And try and counter the other one. Does the first part of the job really nicely. And brilliantly done once again there. So hasn't got anything easy here, Wilson. But certainly a red that is spottable into your little pocket. And already his highest break of the match, beating the previous of 77. And the red does drop in the end. So could be seen a second century of the match in the first one for Gary Wilson here. A break of 113 for him is on the cusp. As the yellow is in. So a break of 88 already. Still 25 points on the table. So as I say, could make it 113. So it'll be significantly higher than the previous one that he's managed, it being 77. And just 2 more pots for a century break. Blue to make it exactly 100 points. And very, very nicely there on it. And rolls it into the pocket. And it is a century break for Gary Wilson. So the crowd acknowledging that as well. And nice job here by the Englishman. It wasn't the easy position to try and negotiate through. He was able to do that in the end. It looks like a total clearance as he rockets the black in once again into the pocket. And a nice little break there from Gary Wilson of 113 in the end. Doing all the damage to Mark Cullen in that frame and winning it now by 3 frames to 2. Getting himself a little bit closer to that final spot against Xiao. Winning 2 frames on the bounce now for the first time in this match that has happened. It's not actually, sorry about that, because the second and third frame have been won by Allen. Both of them back to back, so the second time this happened. And could he make it the third in a row for the first time, that's for sure, in this match? Or could Allen finally get himself a frame on the board after a little bit of a delay and get himself back level with it being 3 frames each? It will be interesting to find out, and I think we will pretty soon. Right now we still have a couple of minutes to wait for the players to come back to the table. So a good response there after the break interval. I thought it was going to be a chance for Allen to try and get himself back on form. You know, after Wilson was very much in charge of the frame number 4. It was always going to be Wilson's frame to lose after he had that 58 point gap with 59 on the table. In the end, Allen managed to get it back to 21 gap with 22 on the table, with Wilson potting the brown and blue to end the 4th frame and lead the 2 players onto the break. Was able to return fresh off that break and get himself a 3-2 lead now in this semi-final. Mark Allen once again has to find himself back in this match and coming back from being a frame down, as he's already managed to do, winning the first and the second and third frame after losing the first one to Gary Wilson. Can he do the same one after losing the first frame after the 15-minute interval there? Have to wait and see. But now it is still anyone's game to win, and I think the frame number 6 will be important for Allen. I don't think it'll be a massively important frame for Wilson to lose. But for Allen, should he lose it, it'll be 3 on the bounce, and I feel like this could just be slipping away from him in this semi-final. For now, he's got a break off to try and negotiate through. Has done it nicely there. Cue ball lands exactly on the cushion there for Wilson to make it slightly more awkward. And now Wilson himself has to navigate through those reds, as once again we find ourselves in a safety battle earlier on in frame number 6. Wilson hasn't got anything available. The positive thing is, of course, that the majority of the colours are available for the break building. Only the pink is the one that I can see not being potable into the pockets that you would need it to. Wilson there just navigating through the table, having a look at what he can do. Allen there just standing patiently, waiting for his turn. And once again, Wilson just not taking the shot approach just yet. And I think he'll have to go from one cushion approach at least, maybe two, and catch it on the way back. It's exactly what he's done. But I'm pretty sure he wasn't planning to end on the red that he actually has. And he'll be really lucky not to give away a chance here to Allen. With it looks like the corner red is not available. The one to the left middle certainly looks like it will be. And yeah, there you can see there, referee just being asked by Mark Allen to clear the cue ball. Certainly an important shot for him to get an early chance after spending the majority of the first frame back after the interval in his chair. Needs to back some of his table time. And what a way that would be to start off the sixth frame with a pot there after just one shot there, it being the break off. In the end, it is a misjudgment from Gary Wilson, and it is Mark Allen back with a break. It's just a question of how much the value is going to be of this break. And we're about to find soon, as the start of it is going to be dramatic and problematic for him. He's got to navigate the way off the cushion there, and done it nicely off the green. So he's fine for now. Now has to check if the pink is going into that left corner pocket. And then, of course, see what the situation with the black is as well. Be really, really important for him. The next couple of shots for now has to deal with the red, and looks like he'll be playing through to the black, which is probably the reason why he checked it. He's got the angle to do that and uses the cushion to his advantage. Has lined up pretty straight on this black though. I think would have liked a little bit more of an angle to push the reds out of the way to free up the black pocket in its entirety. For now, needs to focus on the pot and on the next red for now, and then try and deal with the position difficulties later. And it wasn't easy to do that with you always had to play through the cushion with the red being on it. So not straightforward shot that is for Allen, and certainly the one that looks like he made the mess of. And now it'll be very important for him to find a decent safety shot to at least not put himself on the back foot once again, as he has got a potential shot into the middle to try and take on, but refuses it. And in the end runs in behind the brown quite nicely. So Wilson hasn't got anything easy available to him. And once again, the search continues for Gary Wilson on the opener in the sixth frame. Allen was able to get one himself after a misjudgment from Wilson. Can the Englishman try and do the same and produce some sort of magic of his own? So that's to start off with at least an introduction safety. As clearly pushes the red into the bunch. Needs the brown to be closer to the bottom side of the table than the cue ball, as the cue ball passes the brown there nicely. Once again landing quite close to the cushion, not leaving Allen with anything straightforward. Does leave a potential long pot for Allen, but hasn't taken on too many of those so far. The man from Northern Ireland. And yeah, has to take an avoiding action here. Just being careful in terms of the cue ball positioning. Of course, if he is to take this red on, you will have it doing with the landing on the black in mind. And the Indian does, and catches one of the reds really nicely as well. So a strong chance number 2 here for Mark Allen after being unable to make the most out of the first one. This time he finds a really good long pot and has got a couple of shot selections here to his name. Has got a pink into the right middle. Potentially can try and get somewhere around the black. But the main concern for him, of course, will be the position of the reds. As they seem to be bunched up but also split up there. They're located in difficult position to sort of talk you through, but Alan has to take them one by one at this moment in time and just focus on the one he's got available and try and develop the reds as he builds up those points. Starts off nicely, develops the reds to an extent, and the pink is now looks to be out of the equation, so probably be going back for the blue after this red. Still needs to get it though, as it's not the easiest one. Lands on top of the blue there, and now just has to pick the spot that he can land on and try and potentially put a red in, if there is one. Of course, if there isn't one, you'll have to just play into the reds and hope that by splitting them, he will guarantee himself a position on at least one of them. For now, it's another 5 points off the blue, and he's gone for trying to find a gap there in between them. Needs to be careful that he's actually landed on one. And it would be a waste, of course, if he didn't, having had the chance to go into the reds and trying to split them up rather than just find those pockets of spaces, which are always risky to do. So he's got 2 of them actually to his name, but refuses the straighter one. Tries to go into the reds and develop the pink there, and what a shot this is, because it's probably the shot that has won him the frame. Barring any sort of errors, he should be in with a great chance to make it a 3-all draw. After losing the 2 frames on the bounce there from Wilson, he could now make his frame as the one that would be won in only one visit here, and of course would be won by Mark Cullen. Could have a really significant break here with at least 3 more reds available to him. And as those ones disappear, the new pockets of spaces will open up there for Alan to make use even of more reds. But now 33 points to his name, will be 39 with the next pink. And he's just choosing the next red to follow up after that, and to find himself nicely done there. So we'll just roll through here and land on to one of the reds into the left corner. Really nicely done. So this time he's got, first time probably in a while, a chance to be going for the black after. Looks like he will be going through to that corner pocket, but Alan decided to develop the reds a little bit more, finding himself with a bit tougher on the angle on the black, and needs to make sure this is in though, and it is, as the cue ball positioning. It's not great, but it's not bad, as he landed quite close to the reds to bridge over, but landed comfortably on one of those reds. So still aiming for a 138 of a break here. Should he put all the reds that are available to him. Once again landing on top of the pink there. So not too sure which red does he want to play off now. He seems to have landed a little bit awkward on it, and has to find a perfect space now to be playing this next shot with the rest there. So in his judgment to an extent, let's see if he can try and recover from it. Needs to be perfect with his shot on the pink. And yeah, it doesn't look like he has managed to do that. So it'll be a waste of a chance for Mark Cullen. And break of 42 with a total points tally of 54. Doesn't seem like it's going to be enough for him. So running out of position, that was going to be a frame-winning one, you would feel. But not if you're Mark Cullen, and just a safety now coming up. So Wilson is not out of this frame yet. And his streak hasn't been broken just yet, as Allen once again taking his time to find a brilliant safety shot that he will be looking for. Decent not being enough from this position, as once again the cue ball is right in the reds, so no distance in between them, and the perfect control there of the cue ball. Can't really control where the reds are going to end up, especially if he's going to go hard on them. But the thing that he has to guarantee is the position on the cue ball to be absolutely perfect. So aiming there towards the green pocket cushion. So as the break ends on 42 for him. And he's done pretty well there, Alan. A lot of distance of the table there between the cue ball and the next red for Wilson to try and catch. And surely will just be a matter of safety here, as I don't think he'll be going for any of the long pots from the position like this, Wilson. I say that, and then he's gone for a long pot, and he's actually gone and done it. So it's a moment of brilliance here from Gary Wilson. And all of a sudden, it's the good old rule, no matter how good of a safety you find, it's always better for you to try and stay on the break. And Alan wasn't able to do that. He found himself awkward on the pink, couldn't get on the red. And Wilson now with himself being awkward on the black, so not too sure if he can just try and hang on to the reds. He has to travel the entire table's distance. He's gone for the option number 2. Still needs to travel a little bit more cue ball, and now needs to slow down. And has he played this perfectly there, Wilson? Is the question for me. It seems like he has, because he's certainly lining a shot there into the right corner, and what a shot this would be. You know, for a potential 4-2 lead should this break be successful, Wilson. It's not too much work for him to do. Probably get himself nicely on the black after this shot, or any other colour, and then just one more red on the left cushion there. So the first part of the task is complete, but the second is not really, as he lands straight on the blue. So the only option I can see is probably try and get for that red on the cushion and try and get it out of the way now. Unless he can sort of go for the pink and try and develop the reds, go into them. So think against that, and let's see what he's going to do of this blue. So it does indeed go back for that shot on the cushion. So difficult shot this is, but once again, as I say, a massive shot in terms of winning this frame. Get him a lot of momentum. And also will get a massive frame away from his opponent, as it was really close to the front cushion, but in the end gets away with it, Wilson. And with 4 reds on the table, 5 more potentially blacks to play, he's in with a great chance here, Wilson, after a major misjudgment from Alan. And as he cannons into the reds, develops all 4 of them. This is a massive opportunity now for a 4-2 lead on Wilson. 3 frames on the bounce for the first time in this match. Be absolutely key here. And to steal a frame away from Alan will also feel like a massive thing for him. So for now, he needs to focus on those reds. He's still 24 points behind. I think those 3 reds get him exactly tied on 54 each, should all of them be played with a black. And then, of course, only will need 4 more colours to guarantee himself a win in this frame. So for now, first black to deal with. A lot of screw back there, and landing perfectly there. I was going to say a little bit with an angle, but in the end, the pace of the cue ball was just about enough to land really nicely there. So transition to the pink, you would thought. So 39 points here, looking to make that 45 right now. So one last red now for Wilson. Of course, doesn't have to be taking all of those points with the black. So we'll just have to go for the blue, land the right side of it. This time the opposite one, of course. He's not aiming for the reds no more, as he's managed to eliminate them all. And once again, landing tight on that blue, so might have to take the green there, so creating a little bit of a problem out of nothing for himself. And just rolling through that blue. So 3 points behind now. So we'll need all the colours apart from the black, after losing a couple of points while playing for the blue and the pink. But the yellow is in, so recovered well after that blue misjudgment. And once again, nicely there on the green, as the green disappears as well. So the brown for 60 points will put him 6 points clear, and the blue and the pink will guarantee that Mark Allen won't be coming back to the table in this particular frame, and it will be 3 frames on the bounce here for Gary Wilson, and he'll put him just 2 frames away from the final battle against Xiao Godun. As the frame ball does indeed go in, so it is Gary Wilson with another win, 3rd one in a row, and a break of 78 here to finish off frame number 6. Done really well there in the end, and has managed to take the frame. Another one from Allen. Steal of a frame this is, and certainly now Wilson in control, you would have thought, as this match could end with within 2 frames now, should Wilson win the remaining 2 that he needs and make it a 6-2 scoreline. Allen needs to make sure he gets a couple to his name before that, and at least put himself in any sort of equation. With it being so far very difficult for him to stay in the rhythm that Gary Wilson has been able to set up. You know, Allen had his chance, was able to get 54 points on the board, or 42 on the break. In the end, ran out of position on the pink to get on the next red, so he knew that the shot before he couldn't get on the red nicely. Has tried for something different, hasn't managed to do that, has had to go for a safety shot. That hasn't done him too much favour either. In the end, Wilson was able to take the first chance that was presented to him, and there you go. A break of 78 was able to win him that frame, and now put him with a 4-2 lead against Mark Allen, and of course makes him a massive favourite in the match. Allen still in with a chance, with the odds for Wilson seem to be 133. Allen has 3.1 to his name, so it's still very much doable for Allen, but it probably won't be should he lose the next frame. And yeah, the problems will just start to mount way too high for Allen to reach, him being quite a short man, that sort of things. But Wilson, though, it will be a brilliant campaign for Wilson should he beat the likes of Higgins, Trump, Murphy, and add Allen to that list as well. I mean, it would be a brilliant campaign for him. We just have to wait and see if he can actually do that. It's only 2 frames away, though, as we wait for the players to come back to the table for some more action once again here in Wuhan Open. So Gary Wilson is very much ready for that. Mark Allen still seems to be taking his bathroom break. So you can see for now highlights on TNT of the campaign of the round. We've mentioned already, but you may as well just go through the round 1. Beat Lau Haotian 5-0 there. Gary Wilson beat Sean Murphy 5 frames to 3. Judd Trump to 5 frames to 4. And yesterday has managed to beat John Higgins in the quarterfinal by 5 frames to 3 there. So a brilliant route to the semi-finals. Mark Allen had one that wasn't so much difficult, but still had to beat Hossein Wafai and beat Si Jiahui in the decider, while dispatching Zhak Zuerti and Chup Choyunu in the process, with the scoreline being identical, 5 frames to 1 in both of those. Wilson now with a break-off for frame number 7, as he continues his search for another ranking event win. He only had 3 of those in his career. Would very much like to add this one to that tally and make it a 4th one, and surely one of the best ones he's ever had, especially if you consider the opposition he had to beat. On his way to the semi-final already, and he's not even in the final, let alone talking about winning it. And Allen now with a shot really long that he takes on. No real risk to give anything easy away, but he's run with the cue ball so far there that he's actually underplayed for the black, and he left Wilson with something really, really easy. So it does seem like Allen has checked out of this match, especially, you know, of course it's going to be hard for him to deal with the loss in the last frame, but surely not the way to be throwing just your towel in and conceding when you're still very much in with a chance. But I think Gary Wilson won't care about that, as he's got his job cut out for him in terms of the safety this time. And he's got a prime chance once again to build up a healthy lead, if not win the frame in one visit anyway. Gary has taken out of the big boys. He has. I mean, he's about to take one more, it would seem, with the way Alan's been playing. As he should. I mean, I didn't really expect him to beat any of the Murphy, Trump, Higgins pairs. But, like, it's pretty much been... I was saying that he will lose against Murphy. Then I was even more confident he will lose to Trump. And then I was like, well, Trump wasn't playing particularly well. But I've seen Higgins' performance. Wilson will certainly lose to him. And this match has actually been the first one that I actually thought Wilson would be the favourite. And I given him a 6-3 scoreline prediction. Don't seem to be away too much from the truth. As he lands another red into the middle. So it's got a black to play into the left corner after a little bit of a delay of the referee putting the same black back on his spot. So Wilson will try and develop the reds before that next time, as they'll give him 2 more reds to try and take point away from, and also free up the black and give a little bit more freedom to himself, as every single time the referee has to put that black back on his spot, it takes the sting out of the game to extend, and it breaks momentum for Wilson. So certainly should deal with that in one way, shape or form. For now he lands himself nicely on one of the top reds. So could easily play for either blue or black once again from here. This time he decides to just roll through on the black. And in the end the reds just about drops in. You could see the reaction of Alan in the background. Wasn't happy with that, but in the end it's just part of the game. You're not going to be happy with your opponent scoring those reds, wobbling into the cushions. As Wilson this time does make a cannon to those reds. Leaves himself a little bit with a tighter angle than he would have liked. I hope Gary can keep it up. He must be over the moon. I mean, if he is, he doesn't show it. I think you're being sarcastic a little bit, but I think he's one of those players that will sort of deal with business first, and then you try to celebrate and say, you know what, I've had a really good campaign. If he loses the final to go on tomorrow, if he gets in that final, I think you'll probably say that. But until then, I'm pretty sure you'll be just focused. And you know, as professional keeps saying in any sport, you can never be tired of winning. And certainly as the number 18 in the world, you know, as I say, that this tournament campaign will not double, but it's certainly give him a 50% increase on the prize money that he's managed to win should he win this tournament. For now, needs to deal with this black into the reds. So has got one more red to try and play on top of the table there, with it being quite close to the blue line. He's on the roll right now. He certainly is. Certainly is. It's no longer a fluke for him. It's just been a brilliant performance and a brilliant campaign for him here in China. Certainly doesn't look like it's a table that suits him, as he's been complaining quite a lot about it today already. But still leading by 4 frames to 2. And could be about to make it 5-2 should he go into this raid successfully. 38 points clear. Make that a little bit more after this red, and presumably the blue will disappear in their respective pockets as well. So it's not going to be the blue here. Looks like it'll be the yellow that he'll try and play into the reds from. Try and develop them and hit them as hard as he can. And yeah, try and hopefully land on one for himself. And we'll see if that's going to take an unexpected turn, or is that going to go the way this entire match has. Just slightly in favour of Gary Wilson, especially the last 3.5 frames. So decides to take this thing out of the cue ball. So clearly not playing for the bunch, which I was surprised about slightly, but he's managed to do really nice in terms of positional play to land on the last red available. And with the angle he's got here, he may just be able to get some kind of contact on these reds and split them up nicely without sacrificing the positional play. As he does it once again in a brilliant fashion, gives himself 2 more reds to work with. and gets himself ever closer to that final spot. Searching for a 5-2 lead here against Mark Allen. 49 points scored for him already, all 49 of those on the break, and looking to make it a 4th frame in a row where he made a 50 plus break, with one of them being even a century break of 113. Still one of the only aspects that he trails to Allen in the highest break value of Allen reaching 135 in that sort of traumatic and really lengthy second frame after a re-rack. Allen was able to get himself an early chance and certainly made the most out of the position at that time of asking. Hasn't really been able to do anything since winning the 3rd frame though, and of course had a challenge of a frame before the interval to put himself with a potential 3-1 lead. And you think about it, how much different would it have been had Allen had that lead? You know, 3-1, he could find himself trailing by 5 frames to 2 here. So could have been massive, but in the end, you can only take the frames that you won, and you can only go from the what's on the score sheet. And it certainly is 56 points here for Wilson, looking to make that 62. Only needs one more red and a color after this pink, and rolls nicely into the middle. This time no drama with the pink, as there has been in the opening couple of frames. But Wilson looking like he will be a 5-2 lead here against Mark Allen. And what looked like was going to be a really tight and long match, well, could turn into something of a little bit of a battering here, should Wilson win this and the following frame as well. Was being only 2 shots away from clinching this one. A straightforward roll through onto the black from this red, as the red is in. So the frame ball now for Gary Wilson. 63 points on the board for him already, 67 on the table. Looking to make that 70 points of a gap. And goes into the reds for good measure. Doesn't quite land on one, so you'll feel like Allen will come back to the table. But until then, Wilson has one more shot to try and play. I think he will attempt a cut into the corner pocket if he can get to it. And of course, if he can't, it'll just be an ordinary safety shot, which it is. So break of 70 is the maximum that Wilson can try and get, unless he goes for a double here. He went for a double, but he hasn't managed to do it. So Allen will likely come back to the table here, at least try and search for a snooker of some sort. Only one required at the moment. And even if he doesn't make a snooker, he'll certainly try and break the momentum of Wilson and try and build some sort of momentum of his own. Put in a couple of reds here that are available. I think Wilson obviously realized that, you know, no matter what he's done, Allen was going to come back to the table, so he may as well have gone for that double. Missed it by the slightest of margins, and Allen is now back to the table. Plays a nice shot there with a transition over the table and lands exactly where he should have on the black. So as I say, one snooker is all he needs there, and one snooker is all it takes of getting back a frame. So decides to settle himself for just 8 points scored here, it would seem. And next up, a safety shot incoming. So something that you probably would not have expected. The position is not necessarily the worst one for Allen, but feels like he doesn't need to be taking any sort of risks, as he takes a red into the green pocket there, misses it. In the end, doesn't leave the cue ball on the cushion, so a chance once again here for Wilson. And yeah, there you can see and get through to that red into the green pocket that Allen has attempted previously. But the problem with that one is, of course, just getting yourself a cue ball sort of safe there for Allen not to be able to have a decent opportunity should Wilson miss it. But he can't seem to miss at this point. And it certainly is going to be a frame to Gary Wilson. I don't think Mark Allen will be coming back to the table for this frame. He seems to be not just on a roll, he seems to be flying. Should be sponsored by Red Bull. Certainly give him wings today. Brilliant campaign, especially in the last 4 frames. Flawless from Wilson. I don't know where on earth he's found this bit of form, but it came in a clutch moment after losing 2 frames to 1 to Mark Allen. All of a sudden, he finds himself only 1 frame away from the final spot. It's Joe in his frame, absolutely. And I think it's Joe in the match, you know. It will be a massive comeback if Allen does something, even in the next frame. I think next frame will be absolutely massive for Mark Allen to win. I don't know how on earth he would do that. But Wilson finds himself only 1 frame away here. And Mark Allen will break up for it. And yeah, 8th frame could be the one that is the last in this match. In the semi-final campaign of this year's Wuhan Open. Until the final, of course, which is going to consist of 2 sessions of Salgadon playing the winner of this match. It's going to go best of 19 there. So around 9 frames and 10 potentially played in the second session. So going to be a cracker there no matter who he faces. But so far it does look like Wilson is the more likely of the two to end up in the final. As still has probably around 70 points to try and accumulate before you can talk about it. Depends on how the Reds' position is going to be in the next frame, or any one of the remaining ones, of course. With Allen now requiring to win all 4 of the frames that are potentially there to be played. Wilson only needs 1 more to book himself another visit to the final and still have a chance of a 4th ranking event win for him in 2025. Of course, it will be a brilliant start to the season with only 2 tournaments being played. You know, Shanghai Masters, Saudi Arabian Masters. Neither of those have performed particularly well in either of those tournaments. And I'm pretty sure that Allen hasn't even participated in the first one. And Wilson and Allen actually haven't participated in the Shanghai Masters. So they've had a Saudi Arabian Masters campaign where Allen has managed to lose to the Shang Min Yu in the round of 32. And Wilson himself found himself losing to Ali Carter 5 frames to 4 in the round of 16 there. So didn't have remarkable campaigns there, but certainly had one to remember here, especially with it only being the start of the season. Now, could it be the fairy tale continued for Gary Wilson, or does Mark Allen have one more statement to make before the 8th frame ends? Mark Allen now to break off frame number 8, the frame that could be his last of this year's Wuhan Open campaign. Starts off nicely though, and leaves Wilson with a couple of safeties to choose from. Can't really see any chance of a potential long red that there have been a few of already. For now, just a shot selection there from Wilson in terms of the safety play, and I would assume the standard one from today from Wilson, just roll the cue ball on towards the black area, push the red into the open area itself, and leave Allen with a chance to repeat the cycle with the man from Northern Ireland pushing the cue ball back towards the bulk area and leaving with not a lot of options there to Wilson's name. And that's exactly what he's done. Nice little transition that has been working out so nicely for him. Allen has got a potential shot into the middle though. Not sure if that was a misjudgment there from Wilson, or there was sort of like a half invitation there that Wilson doesn't back Allen to take the frame from. But Allen doesn't seem to be too keen to be taking this shot earlier on. So seems to just check his options, and in the end, if he can see that red into the middle, certainly has refused it. And took the other one on, and he's got it in there. So a brilliant start from Mark Allen, and a perfect one, and the one exactly he would have liked, as he gets himself at least a point on the board and a chance for a decent break. It was a good opening red. Now he needs to make sure he's clinical in his positional play, not just this frame, but all the remaining ones. And so far, looking really nicely for him in terms of the reds opening up. At least 4 of them that I can see being in open area on top of the one that he's already managed to pot. Wilson will now have to spend some of his time in the chair himself. It's not necessarily the best place to spend your time when you're only 1 frame away from victory, but has to hope for an error in this frame for him to return to action. Errors so far that Mark Allen has provided him with, and needs to make sure there won't be any more for him, because any more of them, and it's a chance for Wilson to knock Mark Allen completely out of the tournament with a 6-2 win at this point so far. But Allen has got a break of 10 to his name, as 2 reds are followed up by the pink and the yellow. The pink will now rejoin in his safe spot below the bunch of reds, so that'll free up the position for Allen a little bit more, I would say. I think it will be more of a benefit for him, as black seems to be available to both pockets for him to play. And of course the blue is also available. It surprised me, nothing from Mark since frame 3. Can he put Gary in the chair? He can. The question is for how long. I mean, how long does he mess until he messes up positional play? I don't really see a Mark Allen that is going to make another break of 135 or so, because that was a Mark Allen in frame number 2 when he had a clear chance. Doesn't really have a reputation of coming back from being 5-2 down, does he? Seems to be having the reputation of sometimes throwing the towel, sometimes you'll fight back, but not something that you want to have on your CV, you know. The fact that even sometimes you throw the towel in, you almost feel like it's just a matter of time until that reaches that point. Still needs a split for a good frame winning break, absolutely. And even if he gets that split, you have to feel like from the chance that he's had in the 4th frame, I think, when he had that red into the middle, and he absolutely scuffed that one. He's going to go for the split now of this blue. He does. He's not going to land on the one though. And what's coming? You can't tell me that you didn't see this one coming. I think he took 2 shots less than he should have. You know, that red quite close to the right middle. Could have easily played in behind it with so much room. Could have given him just 6 more points on the board. Could be important, and now has got a difficult shot into the middle to try and play. Needs to make it from the first time, or he'll be in massive trouble. And he does make it, so gets him out of jail this time. But once again, the problem that probably is luck related at this stage is the black and the pink are covered up together. So all of the break building has to go through the blue and the ball colors at this moment of the frame. And the question is, can he do that, Mark Allen? Still has to do and land nicely on the red here from the blue. Might need to use a cushion first. In the end, he goes into the reds, and he's got 1 to the middle, so a risky shot in the end. Only has 1 more shot that he could have played. But I suppose in the end, it's all calculated risks from the professionals at this stage. So 29 points here. Taking a lot of the reds out of the equation already. Having played the yellow a couple of times. Not touching the black for now. So that is why the points tally doesn't really equal to the points that were available for him to score. In the end, that blue just barely drops in, and little things like that, he just needs to make sure they go his way. So far they have, but they're not always going to. Once again, it's a really good shot here from the red onto the blue. Doesn't want to be straight on it, and doesn't want to be the wrong side of it. And he's landed on the worst option of the 2. He's landed the long side of it, but not a lot of angle to try and go around the 3 cushions. And also, which red is he playing at? Probably the one below the pink spot, and not going to be easy for him to do that. would potentially consider brown if I was him. Just give him at least any sort of chance, as he does seem to be having a look towards it. But in the end settles for a blue, so important shot this is. For him to continue the break, needs to miss the brown and yellow, and of course, as I say, it was a matter of time until he was going to mess up the positional play. You can just see from his body language, I don't know if I'm making things up here, but you could just see that happening, and a break of 40, and looks like, unless he goes for a long shot and sort of says to himself, got nothing to lose, it's going to be the end of a break here for him. Difficult shot this is, and a shot that is missed there for him. Where's the red going to finish up though? Looks like it's going to finish up nicely for Wilson to try and take it on there. And all of a sudden, in with a chance here, Gary Wilson once again. Alan ends his break now on the value of 40. And a chance for Gary Wilson to come back to the table and come back with a bang. So taking his time there on this shot. Just being careful. And in the end the red is in there. So nice shot there on the blue or the green. Depends on which one you would prefer. And all of a sudden, the decent position, I wouldn't give it any more than that. A decent position comes to his rescue. As he just made it a little bit better. Freeing up one of the reds, putting one of those on the cushion. But importantly, having at least two more to try and be playing around with now. So once again, the position and the situation with the pink and black remains to be the same. So very much around the blue is the color that both players will have to play, for now at least. And Wilson still has two more reds in open play after this blue. Try and make usage of. Nicely done for the first time of asking. So once again, we'll have to give himself an angle every single time to be finishing up on the blue. Unless he ends up with an acute one to go for the bold colors. Until he figures out what to do with the red, pink, black sort of triangle there. And a couple of reds facing the wrong way as well. Just above the black spot. So still a lot of work to do for him. As I think he'll try to navigate through those two reds that I mentioned, just above the black spot. One of them at least being available into the right corner pocket. That'll free up the other one. And just take away those couple of reds, you know, accumulate points. And all of a sudden you've got a lot less of a table to worry about. Once again, playing through the blue here. For 24 points. 24 points, I should say. And once again, hasn't got too much of an angle this time. Has got a lot of distance to cover up. And needs to judge those kind of shots perfectly. This considering to take shot into the right middle. It shows you how much of a force he has to put through this shot to land really nicely on the blue. That's why he was sort of considering that red. In the end, overlands slightly, but he's okay on this one. And 26 points to his name already. Making that 31 points, but the cue ball going quite close to the corner pocket there. In the end, still has a red here to potentially try to take on, but playing it from the cushion and playing it on the blue doesn't really make sense for him to do that. Surely it's just a safety shot here that he's going to follow up. With him being 9 points behind here of Mark Allen. Could be important in terms of the value. So does indeed go for it, and he makes it there with the red. Brilliant stuff here. And so yeah, the problem is, has he got any of those two colors to try and play? And the answer is no. So not too sure what the value was in taking that red, apart from maybe, you know, just eliminating it from Alan's perspective and just taking it out of the game. So 43 points still available on the table. Wilson Has got a couple of options to his name. I think that the easiest one being just try and play a safety through the yellow. Try and snook around on both of those reds. So takes the blue onto the cushion there. And off the cushion back into play it goes, but the cue ball ends nicely on the cushion there. So I think the green is covering one of the reds for Allen to try and potentially play off. And the other one is being rested on the cushion itself there. So not going to be easy this for Allen. And that gap of 40 points is now been cut down to just a gap of 9 points. And still remember, you will have to win 3 frames after this one. He needs to make a 4 on the bounce if he is to win this match. Doesn't look likely at this moment, but crazy I think has happened. And as long as he's not out of it, I think he'll be pretty satisfied with that. So far just has to roll closely onto that red. This close to the cushion, it being probably the only one he's available. And doesn't want the double kiss of it too much because, yeah, that's why. Because he was always going to leave himself onto the right corner area for Wilson. So once again, I'm not too sure which color to play here, because with Wilson taking the blue out of its spot, the brown is probably now the closest one, apart from if he can split those two up and free up the pink nicely. Yes, he can. So that is a massive boost for him. Still needs to find the perfect positional shot on the next red. And all of a sudden, he'll be in with the chance to close off this match very early after it seemed like it could go all the way. You know, players sharing 2-all draw at the interval. All of a sudden, only one of them has returned to the table. And it could be 4 frames on the bounce, or 5 frames on the bounce here. 4 since the interval has started for Gary Wilson. And yeah, so a lot of screw back here. I think he'll try and line up this red into the same pocket that the pink is now going, with a potential middle as the backup. So it does seem to go for the middle as his main option. Not too sure what that's caused by. Surely it would have been beneficial for him to have an angle to go towards the sort of green-yellow ball area. It's over. I mean, it could be. I wouldn't say it's over yet. I need to see what the position is on the yellow is. I'm not sure if the blue is blocking it, but apart from that, it should be. It should even be over, even if the blue is covering the yellow, with Wilson being hopefully able to take the blue out of the equation. But the fact is, he plays for the pink here. It's probably a sign that he's not too worried about yellow this moment in time. Of course, that'll put him 5 points clear here, this pink. Will be a handful of shots away from that yellow, but seems to take a little bit more time here. So in the end, gets down to hit the shot, but goes back up and just checks the position that he's got there. And as I say, I am not guaranteed 100% here that this yellow will go past the blue. And if he's trying to cannon those 2 balls, it's going to be really difficult to do that. So it doesn't seem to be too happy with the position he found himself in on the pink. Of course, realizing all the importance of that shot, considering taking the brown there to the yellow spot, and the green potentially to the green pocket itself. In the end, can't quite make his mind up, and it looks like he has now. Going for the green, so a difficult shot this is to make it a match-winning opportunity. Now the green is in, and the kiss on the yellow is absolutely spot on. I mean, I'm certainly no Wilson fan, but that shot was exquisite there. Brilliant from him. He found himself in a really difficult position, but what a response that was from him. And now very much with a chance to put an end to this frame and to this match, as the yellow is in. Finds himself still needing the rest here for the green, but the main damage has been done here. Just needs to finish off with 3 more shots to get himself a match ball on the blue. So brown being off his spot slightly, but still very much in open play. Should go to either of the middle pockets. Once again, the referee asking the crowd to be quiet there. And the green goes in nicely. Does seem to be pacey, the cue ball, for the middle shot. In the end, has he landed for the green pocket there? I think we'll have to find out. Don't think there's anything in between the two balls. So it has to be exactly into the pocket there. Damn, that cannon was perfection itself. It was. Is that going to be one shot too many, though, for Wilson? As, yeah, it looks like it'll be just a safety. Unless he can't get through to that brown. And he could, and he certainly is in here with a chance. And a match ball here for Gary Wilson to get himself booked in the final against Xiao Godun. Only one blue left here for him. Match ball that will leave Alan needing a snooker on the pink. Surely something that's not going to happen. Needs to make it though to the middle. And it does make it, so a little bit of a delay there and a little bit of hesitation, but in the end it is Gary Wilson that booking himself into the final at Wuhan Open here in China after a mesmerizing campaign. He's just made it even better, surely knocking out world number 11 Mark Allen out of this tournament. So let's see if Allen will come back to the table. It does look like he is. It being one snooker, even though it is on the pink here. What a shot on the brown! Wow. Yeah, I mean, wasn't bad at all. And once again, Allen comes back to the table here, and straight away gets down and hits a safety shot that wasn't quite far away there from the black, but Wilson just rolling that pink towards the cushion and towards the green pocket there. Does anyone know Gary's current rank? So he is world number 18. He could be aiming to go number 13 to go overtake Si Jiaowei should he win the next the final tomorrow. But for now, he will go up to world number 16. So gets himself in top 16. Could be key in terms of a massive draw and get himself one of the highest seed rankings for the Masters and the UK Championship. For now, has to play a couple of more shots here on the pink, as Alan probably doing the right thing, just playing for the pride. Thanks, no worries. As it being only one snooker in it, even though it is the toughest situation on the table with only two colours to try and potentially make the damage from. So the cue ball has got a decent line, but looks like he'll finish short here. And yeah, just maybe a final shot here with Wilson certainly able to roll this pink into the green pocket. And not that time of asking, so survives for a couple of more shots once again here, Alan. Does seem to be just a matter of time. As once again a decent attempt there from Alan, but doesn't want to be pushing that black towards the cushion, and yes, surely doing himself more damage there with that shot. Snooker now being even more unlikely, with the black being basically on the cushion now, as Gary sends the pink and the cue ball towards the opposite side of the table, once again leaving his opponent with not a lot of options. Probably just has to try and overcut this one. And now goes for a nice little white transition there. And I tell you what, the line is certainly there. I'm not sure the pace is, but what an attempt that was. You know, I wasn't a fan of this whole Allen not giving up attempt, but what a story this would be if he gets himself back in the frame. Gary has to hit a swerve there and gets it in the end, but a little bit of a concern, I would say. Doesn't want to have to go through that again. With Gary Wilson and Allen lining up another snooker attempt in mind. So once again sending that cue ball towards the black area. This time doesn't look like it's going to be quite as effective as the previous time. And Wilson once again has got a chance of either putting the pin quite close to the green pocket or finding a good safety zone. Goes for the shot of double in the middle. Wasn't far off. I think at this stage you can afford to be going for doubles like that. And Alan once again, back to the table he comes. And nearly potted the pink there. I think that would have been the summary of today's match. You know, Mark Allen potting the pink when he doesn't really needed to. Wilson once again with a chance, this time into the yellow pocket to roll the pink in. Misses it, and the cue ball seems to be going quite close to the black there. If he pushes it even further into the cushion, I mean, this surely is now game over now. I mean, that safety, that attempt from Wilson has probably done more damage than Allen has done to Wilson in the entire sort of 4 frames since the interval. With the black now being on the cushion now, surely there's absolutely no point in playing on. There's no way you're going to get a cue ball or the pink ball in behind that. There's yeah, way too little area to target for Allen. And just the switcher turns once again here for Wilson. So I think he'll just try and navigate his way through just to make sure he doesn't touch the black. And eventually he'll have a chance of his own to either pot it, or a mistake from Allen will just force him to finally concede the frame in the match. But now he's just about hanging on to it. And once again taking his time. We've got 147 people watching now, so thank you very much for joining. What a number that is. On the verge of the second finalist here confirmed. Feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And for now, Allen seems to find some sort of trajectory to get the cue ball safe, but catches the double kiss there and leaves Wilson with a straightforward chance. A little bit of an angle between the cue ball and the pink, but surely just roll this into the yellow and it will be damage done to his opponent. So hasn't managed to do that, so on we go. The match is not over yet. It's been 3.5 hours since it started. Of course, the actual match time will be just over 3 hours. So the people that have said it's going to be less than 4 hours of pure match time have probably been right. Unless this goes on for another hour. Wilson for now still looking for that final piece of the jigsaw, even though it being the formal one. And still not finding it. But this time he's managed to, it looks like he managed to lay a snooker himself there. Unless the cue ball has just gone a bit too high, and it has. Still Allen got a mountain to climb to get this pink safe, let alone sort of in the free position. And force a snooker on Wilson. So once again back to the tables comes Gary. And it's the final one. He'll have to come to the table this time as Mark Allen shakes his hand there, congratulates Gary Wilson, and it is Gary Wilson that continues his brilliant campaign here at Wuhan Open in China, and it is Gary Wilson that takes the semi-final by 6 frames to 2, winning 5 frames on the bounce against Mark Allen. In the end, the pistol has to exit the tournament after a decent campaign of his own, but the fairy tale of Gary Wilson will continue tomorrow against Xiao Godun. So 2024 finalist against probably one of the performances of the season. You know, I can't really remember a brilliant campaign in the Shanghai Masters or Saudi Arabian Masters. And could Gary Wilson complete the fairy tale tomorrow? Or is it going to be the Chinese X Factor coming out on top once again here in Wuhan? It will start tomorrow at 7 o'clock UK time. It will start tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the China time. And it will consist of 2 sessions, the morning one and the afternoon one. It will be really interesting to see who's going to come out on top against Xiao Godun or Gary Wilson there. We're going to find out tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining once again. We'll be back with more action tomorrow. But that's going to be it for now. We'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching.